Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the continuation of the UKSimRacing community's Porsche Cup Season 5 as hosted on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today marks our penultimate pair of rounds, rounds 15 and 16, which have seen the series return to continental Europe for the final time this season for none other than the Spanish circuit of the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. This circuit, having gone through multiple iterations over the course of extended history, is a circuit like no other when it comes to asking the question, is there a way to get the perfect setup on a car at a circuit which is absolutely demanding across all measures of your motor racing vehicle, where it be high, medium or low speed corners, extended straight, short acceleration zones and chicanes. This circuit has it all, and therefore this is one of those circuits whereby it's commonly used in pre-season testing, where it be in Formula 1, the GT World Challenge, you name it, the series comes here for pre-season testing. But for our drivers today, of course, it's not a testing time. Instead, it's going to be the ultimate challenge they face in finding the right setup to deliver the points and set themselves up for success in the season finale in a week's time. But as we inch ever closer to the curtain coming down on what has been an absolutely fantastic season, we've still got 4 rounds of racing to go, 2 of them tonight, and indeed it is going to be one of those pair of rounds that you will not want to miss. But as we look to our drivers making the way on the round at the moment, to do a little bit of housekeeping, of course, you're tuning in live right now on the official UKSimRacing YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com and search for UKSimRacing or UKSR as it's abbreviated to, you can tune in there, and welcome to you all, and do feel free to say hi. Do not be shy in the chat there. We always love to have you guys and girls tuning at home and interacting with us. And if you're not a follower of the YouTube channel, then why not do so today to stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts. But speaking of looking ahead to things on their way, we take a look to the season ahead, of course, and we can see here that we started off all the way back on the 5th of January at Alton Park. It feels like an eternity ago when we started off at the beginning of 2023. In rounds 1 and 2, we saw at the Alton Park circuit sparks fly, particularly in the front of the field in the gold class, where Marcel Fritsch was the rather chaotic end to the feed race, but bringing it on home and really started to put a stamp on the championship. Then a week later, we made our way to Sao Paulo, Brazil, on the South American continent, and there at Interlagos in rounds 3 and 4 on the 12th of January. The rivalries continued, indeed, the intensity continued with a major incident below the gold class at the start of the sprint race. Also some brilliant racing action, both across the gold and the silver classes throughout. In our third venue, we made our way back to continental Europe for the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, recently introduced to iRacing at that point. On the 19th of January, we saw the technical challenge that was confronting a multitude of our drivers, and it was Roxanne Marshall who picked up a double set of wins there and really delivered on what was a stellar pair of rounds of the silver class for rounds 5 and 6. Then rounds 7 and 8, we made our way to the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg circuit, and on the 26th of January, it was the rise of Philipp Hammer, and debuted at the previous pair of rounds in France. Hammer, of course, the driver who led from the front of the field in France, but he was put to test in having to find his way through it in quick succession in the feed race, and went all the way from P7 to the lead of the race with only a couple of minutes to spare in the space of a 10-minute window. And well, after the 26th of January, we thought the intensity was going to dip, but it did not. Instead, it only rose even higher when we went to Rudskogen Motor Centre rounds 9 and 10 to mark the halfway point of the season. And there in Norway, we saw on the 2nd of February the run of wins for Philipp Hammer come to an end after 5 wins on the bounce, but the key thing being there that it was Willacy Racing who brought home a historic 1-2 with the win in both the gold and the silver class being in the first 2 positions in the overall finishing order. Then in rounds 11 and 12, as we made our way into the second half of the season, we went to Detroit City, of course, in the state of what is there, Georgia, for the Belle Isle Grand Prix circuit. In fact, the state of Mitcham, we should correct ourselves there, but the Belle Isle Grand Prix circuit, or the Detroit Grand Prix as it's also known, delivered there with a one and only street circuit for the calendar. And then winding forward to the 16th of February, last time out, we continued the theme of the United States of America, but made our way from the state of Michigan to the state of Georgia for Road America. In fact, not of Georgia, my apologies there. We made our way to the state of what was Wisconsin for Road America in the picturesque countryside. I'm not sure what the state of Georgia's on my mind, but I'm thinking of Road Atlanta most likely. But there in the countryside of the state of Wisconsin, Road America definitely delivered on the outskirts of Elkhart Lake Village, where we got to see our drivers battle their way through the sweeping corners. Indeed, many come a cropper on the grass, particularly in the sprint race in rounds 13 and 14. But today, the 23rd of February, we're here in Spain at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya for rounds 15 and 16, and then our week's time, we'll be wrapping up with rounds 17 and 18 at the Sebring circuit in the state of Florida. We'll bring it all to a close in the Sunshine State, and that'll be on the 2nd of March. And well, if all the rounds so far have been anything to be tantalising to, today's race is going to be fantastic in terms of weeping up your appetite for the season finale, because of course the Sebring circuit, a classic on the American calendars of old and new, and we'll talk a little bit more about it there and then. But coming on to our standings then, going into our final 4 rounds, after 14 of 18 rounds, we started with the Gold Drivers' Championship standings. We can see Philipp Hammer leading the way on 173 points for WS Racing Esports, with an advantage now that if he's able to put together another pair of strong results today, it will be an unassailable advantage, and we could be therefore looking to wrap up the Gold Championship here in Spain, with Cameron Willacy, meanwhile for Willacy Racing, 124 points. We'll continue to hound down what is that hunt for P2, now jumping ahead of Tim Darracott from Effect Esports for an advantage of 13 points. We do have to keep in mind there are drop scores to come into effect with regards to pairs of rounds. I do believe it's two pairs of drop scores or 4 rounds that are discounted by the end, but as we see there, Tim Darracott now down to P3, only what is there 7 points clear of Lee Holmes, the Effect Esports driver, having to fend off the 88 Tech Racing Team Purple driver early on in the season, and now having to do so once again as the fight for P2 continues to grow closer. But it's not just about the top 4, and Marcel Fritsch from WS Racing Esports, unfortunately we're not going to see him take to the tarmac today, but 95 points and only 9 points off of the top 4, continue to rise through the ranks, but we'll be losing out today. We'll take this as an automated drop score with Emil Koopmans for Apex Missers there, P6 on 83 points, with a 12-point advantage over Joe Newman from simracing, who's looking for a major haul of points to come his way at some point, given the amount of determination he's shown so far. And it's Danny Hugendorf from Apex Missers and simracing's Nathan Foster, separated by only 5 points at 67 and 62 points apiece. Well, these two no strangers to one another, battling hard, and will we see their rivalry continue today. Samuel K. Sprout, P10 there, wrapping up our top 10 for Blackout Motorsport New Zealand. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing either Woody Sprout or his teammate of Corey Lazarus taken to the tarmac for the remainder of the season due to personal circumstances, but we do wish them well, of course, on the other side of the world. They're based all the way around in the Oceania region, and then we can see at best the rest there in PLM, Simon Bamber, the privateer, on 32 points, 7 clear of Ryan Walker for Satellite Racing, with Corey Lazarus P13 ahead of Steve Hughes, Nathan Scott from simracing at simracing Academy, Dan Blackwell, and then last but not least, Andy Jones there for DCW Racing. We then come on to the silver class meanwhile, and much like in the gold class, we could see the Drivers' Championship here wrapped up tonight should Ash England put together another strong set of results. Currently leading by a margin that has grown all the way to 74 points. For England, it's all about keeping it smart, keeping it consistent, and keeping himself as the #1 name. He's been there all the way through the season. His teammate Jack Ward has now moved into P2 ahead of 88 Tech Racing Team Science Craig Schill. Of course, we have a rivalry for P2 that spans all the way down to effectively what is P6 there, with a gap between P2 and P6 spanning to a margin of 29 points. Craig Schill from 88 Tech Racing Team Cyan will be looking to bring the Willacy Racing driver of Ward closer to him, but he's got to be wary of the fact that he does have his own teammate Alistair Hatcher on 103 points, so only 9 points behind. And then Shane Piggott from 88 Tech Racing Team Red and Glenn Humberstone from 88 Tech Racing Team Purple both have their own aspirations, and we have heard in post-round interviews in the past just how close the rivalry is in the 88 Tech Racing Team at Garage across the sister teams. However, Roxanne Marshall then P7 for 24-hour Bunty people. Of course, we haven't seen Roxanne Marshall compete recently after great success in the first half of the season, and we may not be expecting Marshall return to the remainder of the season, but you never know, of course. We do wish her well, and then we can see an advantage over James Kersott by 8 points there. James Kersott, the privateer, who's had a lot of pace all season, but he's just had the bad luck that's beset him time and time again. But indeed, bad luck besetting the BDM racing pair, Matt Maddox and Daz Fellows to wrap up the top 10, but bad luck at what was the circuit last time out of Road America, really upsetting the apple cart and prevented them from gaining momentum. Still, they're separated by 12 points, and they are 14 clear of Aaron Tresler, the newcomer who picked up 28 points the last time out, P11. He's the privateer ahead of Ross McFowle, and what is 24 points in P12. Then we've actually covered out with Simon Racing Academy and Darren Eels for 88 Tech Racing Team Red, who wrap up the silver standings. Now coming on to the Teams Championship meanwhile, we can see WS Racing Esports there at 247 points, leading the way by a slightly increased margin over Willacy Racing there, now extended to what is 32 points. But the key theme here is that this will go down to the wire come the season finale. We're not going to see it wrapped up today unless Willacy Racing have an absolute disaster of a day, whereby the drivers were to retire across both races in magnitude. But WS Racing Esports right now, they'll be looking to just simply put together a good set of results, and that will give them plentiful advantage going into our season finale rounds next week, and therefore they'll feel confident they've got one hand on the title already. Outside the top two, Apex Missers there, leading the rest of the field on 133 points. The best part of what is their 12 points clear of, in fact, what we should say is 14 points clear, doing the maths correctly, of Simran Racing, with 88 Tech Racing Team Purple on 107 points, and find themselves in a bit of a no man's land. They want to go hunting down the top four, but at the same time, they've got to be wary of Effect Esports, who are further 6 points behind. Blackout Motorsport New Zealand in P7 now on 65 points, neither close to the top 6, nor they're too close to the rear guard of what is P8 downwards, and therefore currently staying in P7, but we're not expecting them to add to their points tally, so the emphasis is on iRacing Team Cyan as one of the many teams below to try and catch up and jump into P7. And on 31 points at the moment, they'll be aware of the fact that BDM Racing are only 10 points behind, with 24-hour punty people only a third point behind to wrap up the top 10. And it's Satellite Racing on 19 points, who could jump into the top 10 ahead of iRacing Team Red, simracing Academy, and DCW Racing yet to score a point, wrapping up the standings there in P14. But coming on to our circuit for today, it is of course the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, but we are running the historic layout. Now this circuit, located in Montmelo of Barcelona and Catalonia of Spain, is a circuit like no other when it comes to corner variety. As we said earlier, the combination of high, medium and low speed corners around here makes this a prime tested circuit for trying to dial in the setup of a car for particular conditions. And well, with so many series using this circuit as well, the official test circuits, it is argued that actually this circuit should be taken off the racing calendars, particularly in Formula 1, given the fact this circuit is used so often for testing that drivers are too acclimatised to it. But of course, we're not running the latest layout of the circuit, we're not running the Grand Prix layout, instead we're running the old historic layout. And the difference will be, you'll notice in turn 10 there, we're running the much faster version of the UKSimRacing hairpin, albeit it's not the version that you see and know today. It's a slightly different version which dated back to what was the first gear corner apex, which was introduced in the early noughties. But the theme here is I'll try to make the way down the start-finish straight, down towards turn number 1, the start-finish straight being the longest straight of them all. They'll roll the way down and into the heavy braking zone before rolling the way through the right into left combination. A tricky combination because both corners are technically slightly off camber, albeit they do dip towards the apex, and turn 2 actually becomes a camber corner the closer and closer you get towards the apex curve. And as they power their way out of turns 1 and 2, they'll then need to get themselves set up for the long right-hander at turn number 3, carrying medium speed to high speed as they exit out and charge up to a corner at turn number 4. Onto the brakes there, a very tricky corner turn 4 with multiple racing lines, and they'll do well to master it as they make their way down towards turn 5, breaking downhill into a sharp hairpin, and as they roll the way out of the corner, heavily cambered, and therefore they can really abuse the preload differential of the car, and they roll their way through the Kinker 6 and break their way into TV3 corner at turns 7 and 8. Going through the left into right there, tricky chicane and very easy to impeach track limits. They'll make their way up towards turn number 9, the sharp right-hander, which is where it's the trickiest corner on the circuit, because it is an off-camber corner, where if you take too much apex curb, the car will be spat out onto the exit curbing and sent very wide into the gravel. Now making the way down the back stretch there, a short straight, but plenty of overtaking opportunities available as they make their way down to Iksert at turn number 10. They'll break their way into the faster version of the hairpin before coming back uphill for turn 11. And if they get that right, it's then the downhill run through turns 12 and 13. Catalunya corner to complete the lap, of course, named after the circuit, and that will bring them onto the start finish straight to go once again. And thank you to iRacing.com for their brilliant circuit map and indeed their wonderful simulator. We're coming on to our rules for this round. Indeed, all rounds we can see qualifying wise, a lone qualifying format shall be used. Well, drivers will take to the circuit in the allotted time in an isolated instance of the circuit, and they'll have 8 minutes to set their best possible time, an unlimited number of laps, but the session will end dead on the dot at 8 minutes, and therefore our drivers must have finished their laps by that point. There's no overtime available. In the races shall commence via a standing start, as is the tradition, with the sprint race grid being set based on the results of qualifying, and that's a given, and the feature race grid being a partial reverse grid based on the results of the sprint race, with the top 8 positions inverted. What does that mean in standard English? Well, the winner of the sprint race will be starting, and this is overall position we should point out, will be starting P8 overall, and we work our way down to the P8 finisher in the sprint race who starts on reverse grid pole, and then P9 and downwards, that's where they will start on the grid for the feature. Now, there is no mandatory pit stop requirement in either the sprint or the feature. And I mean, if we do see any pit stops, it's for drive-through penalties or damage to the car being repaired. And speaking of damage, there's one fast repair available in each race, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 14 or more instant points. But as we return to our live pictures then, ladies and gentlemen, let's take you through our schedule for tonight. Times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinated Time at UTC. It is as follows. In just under 2 minutes time, we'll be heading into our qualifying session, 8 minutes in duration, seeing all our drivers out of the circuit, looking to deliver as best as they possibly can, and then we'll be making our way to the grid for the sprint race, the round 15 sprint here in Spain, and that'll be at 10 past 8 this evening for 12 minutes of race in action, before we take a brief interlude and just return before 8:30 this evening for the build-up to the feature race. 30 minutes of racing action there, 2.5 times the time at duration. But you can imagine our drivers will be looking to go for gold, but they'll have to be wary of that tyre management. And with currently an ambient temperature of 22 degrees centigrade with partial cloud and a track temperature of 27 degrees centigrade, this circuit is definitely going to heat up. And one of the things as well that does need to be kept in mind is that this circuit is known for higher variability when it does come to temperature conditions, indeed track conditions. This is a circuit that over the course of an hour can see the wind direction change massively early, and with that changes the whole flow of the circuit, given the tenderness of the run into each and every corner. But speaking of tender kindness here, we do say hello to those of you in the chat, albeit nobody at the moment putting forward a step 2, put a message in the chat. But we do understand if you're a little bit shy, we should say, don't be afraid to say hi. And when the commentary booth, you do have myself. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX151 or Brit of the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I will bring you all your racing action tonight, indeed for the remainder of the series. Now I do apologise if I sound a little bit bunged up. Unfortunately, I'm still suffering from a bit of a viral bug at the moment, but the one thing that goes well, of course, they do say a lot of medication is key to recovering from illness, but the one other thing I do say is a massive endorphin boost, and well, how could I miss the opportunity to cover another pair of rounds of the wonderful Porsche Cup hosted by UKSimRacing? Indeed, it puts a smile on my face every time I see one of these 992 Cup cars turn a corner of a given circuit. And Philipp Hammer, of course, the fastest man over the course of this season ever since participating all the way back in the early rounds, and well, right now the WS Racing esports driver looking to deliver. But as he comes on down, and in fact I do believe that Corey Lazarus has made it today, and thank you for clarifying that in what is their SKXDLXX there. Well, I'm not going to try and pronounce your name in full there, we're just going to go for the initials. I'm going to refer to you as SKX at this point onwards, but Corey Lazarus has made it to circuit side, so he's been able to get those technical issues that were blighting him away, and just in time as well, because we're about to head into qualifying here, aiming to qualifying, and let's see who's able to put it on pole for today's sprint race round. But as we also say hello there to Jack Ward, who's competed today, and messaging from the pit lane, and Jack will clarify that we're not going to be seeing Ash England tonight saving the car for Sebring, so therefore that will mean that it will go down to the wire at Sebring in the Silver Championship, albeit with the advantage that England has. You would imagine it will be a formality, quote unquote, as the Emil Koopman's making his way out the pit lane there and then deciding to come on back. But meanwhile, Aaron Tressler heading on out here, and also Cameron Willacy. In fact, we see Willacy heading on down and around through turns 1 and 2 at the moment, the gold class Willacy racing driver. And we also say hello there to Craig at Tilleston, who says, hi guys, good luck in tonight's race, and I'm sure everyone will appreciate it, Craig, and I hope you're doing well. And we also say hello there to Nathan Scott, who says, good evening Paul, watching from the work, good luck guys, and we'll hope work's going well for you, Nathan, and you're able to put your feet up for a brief interlude to enjoy the race in action. But as we do look to Tressler getting very wrong, coming into turn number 5, and I think they're going a bit too deep for the braking zone in its entirety, and missing it there on cold brakes, understandable, also cold tyres, but we can confirm here is Corey Lazarus there, Blackout Motorsport New Zealand. Well, they have, and we have had confirmation as well that we see both drivers in the season finale as well, and that's absolutely great to hear. So we will see them give rise, of course, to that race in action one more time. The two drivers from New Zealand of Samuel Case Brown and Corey Lazarus, albeit Lazarus only here today. And I can tell you right now, I think if my maths is correct, it's approximately about 4 o'clock in the morning for them, where they are locally based in Australia and New Zealand, and therefore it is very early hours of the morning, but they make the effort to go racing here, ladies and gentlemen. We love them for it. But meanwhile, what we'll also love very shortly is a fast lap around here and a demonstration of what it takes to deliver a lap of the Porsche Cup 992 machine, as we see Cameron Willacy making his way down through turn number 12 and heading into turn number 13 as he roars his way down, and we jump aboard here for a fast lap of the Catalunya circuit. Making his way out of the final corner and sweeping his way up the gearbox. He heads across the timing line here, up into 5th gear, then up into 6th. Now getting ready to brake. This is the fastest line he'll take on circuit. He'll reach up to the top speed here, reaching 160 miles now, looks to his left for his braking marker, braking about 120 metres, dropping all the way down from 162 miles an hour to 70 miles an hour corner apex, second up into 3rd as he makes his way from the right to left to 1-2, bring the cone to the left hand side to sweep his way and open up the apex for turn 3. 3rd gear, balance the throttle. As soon as he sees his distant marker, one of the trees there, gets back on the power, gets on a bit late. Then you could see he left a bit of width on the circle on his left hand side. He'll correct that in the next lap as he brakes his way down into Repsol at turn number 4, down to 2nd gear, get on the power nice and early, let the car gradually come out to the left, then bring it back to the right to brake into the down the hill hairpin of turn 5. Now dropping all the way down one of the lowest speed corners here in 2nd gear, powering out and heading up towards turns 7 and 8 as he makes his way through the kink of 6 into TV3 corner, braking at the start of the entry curve on the right hand side down to 3rd gear. Take plenty of apex curve initially, don't use too much of the right hand curve, however turn 8, track limits of course, and then to turn 9, braking there in the run in to the right hand, staying in 4th gear, that way getting the power nicely on early and not having to worry about oversteer on power. And as he heads on down the back straight now, braking shortly into the turn 10 hairpin, braking into like a turn as he rolls his way letting down the gearbox into the apex. Second gear now powering out, but having to fight there with the steering wheel. As you can hear briefly, the car wanting to snap loose on the rear end on that second gear acceleration, but he balances the transition into turn 11 nicely as he powers out now into third, heading up towards fourth gear for a brief moment and dropping the car through. Stays in fourth and back to turn 12 and now down into 13, coming all the way through the final corner, staying in fourth gear once again. It's a smooth lap from Cameron Willacy as he heads to the timeline, but what's it going to be as he crosses the line here to put a lap on the board? It's a 45.529 and already 1.5 tenths faster than Lee Holmes here, and it's a first strike for Cameron Willacy, albeit with all the times we've yet to have come on through. I think plenty more drivers here would love to say something about that, as we do look to Emil Koopman's making his way up through turn number 11 at the moment, and as he heads on through into turn number 12, we also do look to Jack Ward, fastest man in the silver class at the moment, only 2 times on the board there. The Willacy Racing driver, 1 at 46.895. Corey Lazarus jumps off into P3 overall, and we are already halfway into this qualifying session, and that's the thing that's on our drivers' minds as well. Much like what we saw last time out at Road America, the lap time here quite extended, and therefore our drivers not getting many laps available to them to be able to really lay down the marker, and therefore you do need to nail it out of the box. Really, it's one safety lap or one banker lap as we like to refer to it, and then the next lap has to be perfect, but you don't get many more than that. Meanwhile, one driver who yet to get a time on the board. Oh, goodness, being into the wall there. What is turn at number 11? Alistair Hatcher gone straight as he tries to get the power down. The dirt on the tyres sent the car back round. That's going to be a tow to the pits. As meanwhile, SimRacing's Joe Newman heading on down the back straight here and up towards turn number 10. Heading down onto the brakes very shortly. And well, Newman, as we said earlier, showed a lot of tenacity at Road American. Indeed, he has been one of those drivers. He's not been the fastest in the gold class, but he's definitely been one of the strongest defensive drivers over the course of the season, and he'll be looking for a strong set of results today. But as he makes his way through the right-hand return at number 11, not long left to go on the lap. But meanwhile, one driver who is absolutely flying right now as the clouds come over. I think it's a sign of a storm, a proverbial storm that's approaching here. Philipp Hammer from WS Racing Esports. He's gone purple in sector 1. He's gone purple in sector 2, and he's only got 2 more corners before he completes this lap. We've yet to get a time on the board. He's decided to save it all as Lee Holmes improves there to a 45.372. It's 1.5 cents faster than Cameron Willacy, but what's this going to be from Philipp Hammer as he heads to the timing line? Is it going to be for original pole? It is. It's a 44.464. It's almost a whole second faster than anybody else so far. Philipp Hammer immediately responding and getting it all done on a single lap. I mean, I'm not going to say it's over in qualifying yet, but that is putting the bar incredibly high here. And with that, can this man, Lee Holmes, find a way to respond? I mean, finding a couple of tenths, sure, as the tyres come up to temperature, the track comes up to temperature, but finding a whole second out there, given the fact that he's had to really dig deep to find the time over Cameron Willacy, I think that is going to be a gargantuan task that even the boldest may say is not going to be possible. But as he makes his way to turn 7-8, he'll look to try and prove the difference as he rolls his way through, but already down his previous best in sector 1 and in sector 2 so far. It hasn't been a perfect sector. A little bit of a body roll into turn number 5 there, cost him dear, but as he makes his way out to turn number 9 now, he comes to the timeline for sector 2, and what's it going to be here? Well, it's not an improvement either, so Lee Holmes will not be improving on this lap in terms of the grand scale unless he can pull out some magic in the final sector. But even so here, I think his target will be to beat Cameron Willacy to be on that front row alongside Hammer, and he's done that with certainty given that Cameron Willacy is in the pit lane. But meanwhile, we do look at some drivers who've yet to get times on the board, including the privateer Aaron Tressler as he makes his way onwards into turn number 9 and coming on through the corner here. Well, right now he'll be looking to try and get some time on the board with a depleted field as well. Getting a good qualifying time here becomes ever more important for the simple reason if you can out-qualify a good number of drivers you wouldn't normally be rated against, then you may find yourself really with a huge advantage and operation to get some huge points come the end of the standings today. But Stressler makes his way into turn number 11. He's got 30 seconds left. I don't think he's going to have enough time here as he comes on through. Philipp Hammer finishes his qualifying session. His last lap of 44.502 does not improve. Meanwhile, we see there Jack Ward jumps back up to silver pole position, P6. Head of Glenn Humberstone. Both drivers improving there, separated by only a 10th. And as we do see Tressler coming to the line, what's it going to be here? He goes pole position to the silver class, and that's qualifying complete for Aaron Tressler, a 46.182. He leaves it to last, and he gets the job done. Well, let's take you to that grid then for round number 15, our first race of today. They line up as follows then, here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya for the sprint. Philipp Hammer from iRacing Esports takes pole position by 9/10 of a second over iRacing Team Purple's Lee Holmes. On the second row, it's Cameron Willacy for Willacy Racing, joined by simracing's Joe Newman. And on the third row, we have our fifth gold driver of Corey Lazarus for Blackout Motorsport New Zealand, joined by your silver pole sitter, the privateer of Aaron Tressler. Congratulations to him for picking up his first silver pole position. Jack Ward and Glenn Humberstone, two silver peers, line up on the fourth row for Willacy Racing and iRacing Team Purple respectively. And then completing the top 10 is the pair of Emil Koopmans in the gold class for Apex Missers and the silver star of Craig Schill for iRacing Team at Siam. Then we have on the sixth row Danny Hugendorf for Apex Missers, not setting the time, and the same for Nathan Foster for simracing. And then coming on to what is our final row of the grid by his lonesome on row number 7, P13, it's Alistair Hatcher there, the iRacing Team Siam driver behind the drivers in the gold class on the sixth row, and he'll be looking to try and find a way to cut his way through the field as quickly as he can to go hunting after his silver peers. But of course, catching is one thing, passing is another, and the trick here at this circuit, of course, is you really need to stay close to find a way to make an overtake. This is not an easy circuit to make passes on, whether the cars are high or low downforce. It really does take the driver in front to make a major error. But as we do just wait for the grid to form up at the moment, we can see most of our drivers are already there, albeit we do still have some to take their boxes on the grid. But it is going to be that long run all the way down towards turn number 1. And with it, of course, one of the longest straights on our calendar so far. And as our drivers charge on down there, and we do just reload our overlay to make sure you can see the circuit map in the top right corner of the screen. We do have that front row occupied, but we are still waiting for 3 drives towards the back of the field. 2 now, Hugendorf and Foster on that 6th row. I think they decided to take their time and knowing that they can compose themselves and get into the minds of the drivers in front. But now as the grid fills up, Nathan Foster will join shortly. The grid process is complete. We'll wait the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for round number 15 here on the Porsche Cup Season 5 as Philipp Hammer gets a brilliant start off the line and they make their way down towards turn 1. Lee Holmes, meanwhile, defending versus Cameron Willacy as they head into the opening braking zone. And Holmes here with a good start, Willacy with a better start, but find himself on the outside. He can't make this count. Meanwhile, as they roll the way on through, we see there Lee Holmes getting the door shut nicely. There's a little bit of a moment there for Joe Newman. Corey Lazarus comes on through, but Aaron Tressler trying to go round the outside here. Turn number 3, can't find it. Lazarus there with a little bit of a deep line that's going to cost him dear as they make the way out towards Repsol corner at 4. But now as they make the way out, Lazarus immediately defending here as they break the way on down. Emil Koopmans meanwhile looking on the inside there with Danny Hugendorf tucked in behind. Hugendorf coming into contact there with what is Craig Schill, and the two of them going off. We've also got a car around in the form of Emil Koopmans. So the Apex Missers drives both making a mistake there at turn number 4, and it's cost them very dear. Meanwhile, we look back up to the battle for P2, and Lee Holmes here holding firm with Cameron Willacy hot on his tail. As they make their way into turn 7 and 8 here, run on through the left into right. Well, Philipp Hammer absolutely nailing the start and give himself plenty of breathing room to really run off into the distance now if he so desires, and presuming of course that his peers are not able to match him on race pace. Qualifying of course is one pace operation, and meanwhile the race pace itself is at a completely different theatre in the vault, that delivering on one lap is different to delivering time after time in a 12-minute window. But as we see Joe Newman here running P5 at the moment, falling back off of the top 4 and really right now falling backwards towards the silver class behind of Aaron Tressler, Jack Ward and what's Glenn Humberstone, and that's the Hatcher. I wonder if we'll be seeing Tressler very shortly trying to encourage him to get a move on, or whether we'll be trying to put the move on him instead in order to give himself a bit of breathing room versus his silver foes behind. But as they come down through 12 and into 13, our drivers rolling the way on through and 1 lap complete as they make the way onto lap number 2. So after 1 lap, it is Philipp Hammer who leads to iRacing Esports by an advantage of 1 second over Lee Holmes in P2. Lee Holmes there holding firm as we see Cameron Willacy with a slowdown, meaning that Corey Lazarus has moved up into P3. Meanwhile, Cameron Willacy falling further back and Joe Newman up into 4. Aaron Tressler up into P5. He's your silver leader behind the gold drivers. Then Jack Wall closing behind P6 in this battle for the silver lead. We then have Cameron Willacy at P7, followed up by Glenn Humberstone P8. And there is Alistair Hatcher, followed up by Emil Koopmans to complete your top 10. As you can see, Hatcher and Koopmans here making the way out of 2 and into 3. Best the rest, Danny Hugendorf a bit further behind. But meanwhile, Cameron Willacy finding his way back past Jack Ward as we look to make the way into turn number 4 here through the right hand and rolling the way on through. Ward will not be wanting to prevent any movement there from Willacy for the simple reason they'll want to get as many points as they can in both classes to close the gap to WS Racing Esports in the Teams Championship. Given that Marcel Fritsch is not in attendance today, this is a prime opportunity for Willacy Racing to really narrow that gap to WS Racing Esports in the Championship to take it down to the wire at the final rounds next week. But as they make the way on around here, Willacy with that slowdown coming out of turn 13, and we believe it was for track limits at turn number 12 that he received the slowdown. A little bit of internet connectivity issues there, but those seem to have been abated, and Corey Lazarus right now finds himself in an opportune position to fight for a podium here as he comes into Caixo once more. Now running his way on through, we do jump on the gearbox here of Corey Lazarus. You can see Joe Newman behind, and Newman since a very troubled start to this race on the open lap, just seemingly a bit out of position. Now he's got some tyre temperature and some brake temperature. I think Newman is starting to go up to speed, and that's always the challenge, of course, with these 12-minute sprint races. You really do need to nail it from the very start of the race. You do not have that time to warm up. These cars, as we've seen in qualifying, do normally take about one warm-up lap plus 2 or 3 fast laps to really get in that operating window. But if we play the lap times into how long this race will be, we've already moved on to lap number 3, and we're already a third of the way into this race. If you do the mathematics, that means effectively we only have approximately 7 to 8 laps of racing here in the sprint, and that is not long at all when you think you take half the race to get the car up to optimum operating window per se. So now for Lazarus, he's had a brilliant start. He's gained the places, but you can see here how Newman and Tressler really started to inch closer and closer. But the problem for Tressler is he doesn't really want to be caught up in this fight, because the silver leader right now would want to keep Cameron Willacy behind. Alternatively, can he play the gamble here and decide to let Willacy go and then keep the advantage to Jack Ward, because Ward has fallen back to 1.5 seconds off as the drivers seem to have a little bit of latency and connectivity issues there. Hopefully not a sign of an incoming problem, which would be a technical issue. That would be the effective equivalent to an engine failure or retirement, if you will. But meanwhile, looking a bit further down the order in the battle for P9, well, we can see here that the battle for P10, it's Danny Hugendorf trying to go around the outside of what is there, Alistair Hatcher in the run through turn 5. Ben and Hatcher defending well as they make the way for the kink of 6. Hatcher on the inside still, but in the end lets it go as Hugendorf takes P10 overall and makes his way now after Joe Newman as Hatcher goes a bit wide there. And well, that's got a bit unfortunate for Hatcher. And meanwhile, Emil Koopmans gaining ground than Joe Newman. It looks like Joe Newman's been involved in some sort of incident. He's dropped a long way down the order after one moment ago being after that P3 fight. But as they come on through the turn 10 hairpin, well, Emil Koopmans makes it firm and stick, and therefore Newman now back in P9 and what is P6 in the gold class. But before we take a look at what happened to Joe Newman, of course we do have that incident on the opening lap between Hugendorf, Koopmans and Schill. Let's take a look back. Well, this was in the run down towards turn at number 4. You can see here Hugendorf and Schill coming together. A little bit of contact there initially. Now as they broke the way on in fact, no, my apologies. That was contact there with, I believe, what was not Alistair Hatcher, but instead Glenn Humberstone, who there was the contact with, and Craig Schill being caught up as a result of that subsequently. Well, as we take another look back here, and well, from the onboard perspective of Craig Schill as he came into the corner, and in a minute, it's all goodness me. And there is the contact, of course, with Hugendorf. And then as for Emil Koopmans, what happened to the other Apex Business driver was he made his way into the corner. I think here he just got it wrong on the brake, covering off Hugendorf, and also what was there, Humberstone, as they made the way through. Koopmans just losing the rear of the car then, having to stop the car before it went around and collected another driver, but a difficult one for all of them. Meanwhile, we try and understand what happened to Joe Newman, and in fact we do have a replay. And as he is making his way up through turn 7, the rear of the car snapping loose. Oh, goodness, been into the tyre barrier there for Joe Newman, taking a bit too much apex curve at turn 7. And the thing with that apex curve at 7 is you want to use a lot of it as we now return to the live pictures with half the race to go. But as our drivers make the way around, the key thing with that apex at turn 7, the more of it you use, the more it will rotate the car around. But the downside is you effectively in the end have your 2 left wheels on the curve, and the 2 right and side wheels are almost starting to be lifted off the ground, particularly that rear right tyre. And when you're in a car that is a mid-engine at rear-wheel drive, already rear-engine rear-wheel drive, given how far back the engine is in the Porsche over the rear axle, aiming to be as close as possible to it, then it means that rear right tyre, when you try to get the power down coming out of the left-hand corner, it's the tyre that needs to be in maximal contact with the surface. As soon as you get that power down, if it doesn't have that power going down, the car is going to go around, and that's exactly what's happened to Joe Newman there, just getting a little bit greedy with the curve, and as a result, the car letting him know about it. But as we look at Philipp Hammer charging down towards turn number 1, the gap continues to open up to Lee Holmes here, and will the 88 Racing Team Purple driver, I think he'll be a little bit flustered in the fact he can't seem to find a way to close up to Hammer, but at the same time he'll be happy he's keeping Corey Lazarus well at bay. as the Blackout Motorsport New Zealand driver here on his P3 at the moment, 5 seconds off the leader, 2 seconds off of Holmes. And as they make the way through turn 3 and into 4, charging on down at this point in time, well, for Lazarus here is definitely going to be a result worth remembering, as Aaron Tressler meanwhile continues to lead in the silver class, and at this rate of knots on course to bring home his first silver class win of the season. He joined us late, he joined us as of the last 2 rounds in Road America, but still a late starter, but a fast one at that, as he makes his way through turn number 5, with Cameron Willacy still behind, and Willacy here not looking as strong as we've seen him in recent rounds, as they come through the kick of 7 and up into turn number 7 now. Now the kick of 6 into turn number 7, we should say, as he comes through 7 and 8 and makes his way up into turn number 9. But charging on through here, we do look a little bit further back to Emil Koopmans, who right now are chasing after Glenn Humberstone, and will the challenge here for Koopmans is, he may have a lot of pace at his fingertips. In fact, he's the 4th fastest driver out of the circuit, matching the pace of Aaron Tressler. And as they make the way on around here, Koopmans has got to try and close down to Cameron Willacy, a gap that's opened up all the way to the margin. 5 seconds as Koopmans loses it there under braking into turn 10 hairpin. The car just slides across the road there. Well, not exactly quite sure what happened from Koopmans' perspective, but a nightmare moment there for the Dutchman. Thankfully, getting it back onto the circuit, not getting beached in the gravel, heading out towards the tyre barrier. But at the same time, I think for the Dutchman there, definitely a scary moment. And Joe Newman picking up a place as a result of that, moving up into P5 in the gold class. But definitely right now, it's been a difficult day so far for some of our gold drivers here, who've lost out some critical positions and points. Joe Newman and Emil Koopmans being the 2 big names who've really fallen foul this circuit. And also Nathan Foster, well, he took part in qualifying but has not been able to make it to the grid due to a technical issue on the car. And as the drivers make the way on down right now, with only 3 minutes to go, we look to Aaron Tressler here, who is gradually being caught by Cameron Willacy, lap after lap, corner to corner. And as they power their way up towards turn at number 4, I think the number 11 driver here, he may have the UKSimRacing driver come knocking shortly for that position. I think for Tressler, if he wants to worry about the win in the silver class, it may be easier just to simply give way. Of course, he'd love to bring home a P4 overall. He'll still get a P5 overall. It'll be his first overall top 5 as well, with his first win in the silver class. But the thing for Tressler here is, with Jack Ward only 2 seconds back and growing closer from corner to corner right now, does Tressler really want to fight this? Well, as they make the way out to turn 7 and 8, here is where we'll start to see whether Cameron Willacy will have the opportunity as we jump on board with the 43 car, and as he makes his way through the right hand here in that dirty air, albeit we do lose him for a brief while there. Connectivity issues are still prevailing, and as he powers his way down towards turn number 10 onto the anchors here, just not able to find a way in. In fact, in the entrance, they're going a little bit deep, and this is going to be the opportunity that Willacy's been waiting for, and he goes up the inside there and gets it done. I think Tressler decided to let it go, knowing there's only 1 more lap after this, and for him, there's a lot more at stake than just P4 overall. It is the winning class. He drops to P5 there. You can see Jack Ward now 1.7 seconds behind, and the UKSimRacing driver will take inspiration from the fact he can see his class leader right in front of him. And well, I can tell you from the perspective of a sim racing driver, when you do see your foe right in front of you, and if it's the class leader in particular, you do get that little bit of a boost. It's a psychological boost where you just feel as though you can push a little bit more, albeit you won't get carried away with it, of course, but it just might see his lap time start to come down a little bit more. But given the fact he's only got 1 lap to go, now he's going to have to pull some 1 lap magic if he wants to try and make the move count. We're going a bit deep then to turn 1. That's going to cost him the time to see the gap open up already to 1.6 seconds from 1.3 as he heads into turn number 3. But coming on through and around in up towards Repsol Corner. Meanwhile, we do look back to Alistair Hatcher here, who in a rather difficult start to today's race, the ATEC Tech Racing Team Cyan driver pushing on. And well, for him, this will be P4 in the silver class, so he finishes where he is. But meanwhile, we have to suspend the fall for a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, because Emil Koopmans has just moved up into P8. Joe Newman, however, will be going slowly coming into turn number 4 here. What exactly has happened to Newman, we will find out very shortly. In fact, we do have a replay coming up. Was Newman made his way through turn number 3, the long right here, getting the power down, the rear snapping loose and having to fight with the steering wheel, and it's another knock to the wall there for the 997 driver. And well, that Porsche definitely has been bruised and battered, and as he brings it back on, and we return to live pictures here, trying to fend off what is Danny Hoogendorf for literally the last half a lap, as he makes his way into turn number 9. Not long to go, and this is a P6 now in the gold class, P9 overall. But as he heads on down towards turn number 10, it's been an eventful race for all the wrong reasons. But meanwhile, he's going to come on home in a race that's not been eventful for all the right reasons. He's led from the front. He qualified on pole by almost a second. And as he comes to the line, Philipp Hammer is your winner for UKSimRacing Esports in round number 15 of 18. As he crosses the line there, 4.2 seconds clear ahead of Lee Holmes, who brings up P2 in the gold class, ahead of Corey Lazarus, P3 there in a return to podium and 4 for the Blackout Motorsport New Zealand driver. Cameron Willacy, P4, not on the podium today, but Aaron Tressler there, P5 overall, bringing home his maiden silver win in a brilliant drive for the British privateer, ahead of Jack Ward for UKSimRacing, P2 of the silver class, P6 overall, and then Glenn Humberstone, P7, rounded off the silver podium there for iRacing Team Purple, ahead of Emil Koopmans, Joe Newman, and what is Danny Hoogendoorn there. And then we can see what I believe is Alistair Hatcher coming to the timeline very shortly. Best of rest outside of the top 10 as he crosses the line for iRacing Team Sign in P11. And then our last finisher of this race will be Craig Shields. He makes his way for the last couple of corners, and it has been a difficult race at iRacing Team Sign, particularly in their hunt for what is that second place in the Silver Drivers' Championship for both drivers as they make their way on around here. And will Shield definitely know now he needs to bounce back in the feature in round number 16 as he crosses the line there to take P12 in his fastest lap of the race of 48.052. Well, we do to give a brief moment to all our drivers now. We've got a 2-minute window, and with that we'll use it to recap the race results. So after our first race of today in the round 15 sprint, we can see here for the Porsche Cup Season 5 hosted by UKSimRacing at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya today, Philipp Hammer taking the win by 4.3 seconds over Lee Holmes, with Corey Lazarus there completing at the gold podium and the overall podium in a brilliant run from all 3 drivers there. Philipp Hammer seemingly just in a world of his own, but to be fair to Lee Holmes and Corey Lazarus, both drivers pushing one another, and in the end Lee Holmes just keeping the New Zealander at bay. Cameron Willacy for UKSimRacing there in a different run of form today, not quite able to make it to the podium, but still that run of podiums may have come to the end, but his run of top 5s was not, finishing P4 ahead of your silver winner Aaron Tressler there, finishing 10 seconds off the race winner of the privateer. I think very happy with that result, ahead of Jack Ward and Glenn Humberstone, who complete the silver podium, P5 through to P7. The iRacing Team Purple driver there completed the race ahead of Emil Koopmans, the Apex Misters driver, who found it all went wrong on multiple occasions, but still beating Joe Newman and Danny Hoogendoorn to the post there for the top 10 to be complete. In best of rest, P11, Alistair Hatcher ahead of Craig Shield, and our one retirement of the race, not able to make it to the grid due to technical issues, Nathan Foster there for the SimRacing. But of course now we will see that top 8 inverted, and Emil Koopmans will be your pole sitter for the purposes of our round 16 feature race. And as we get ready to go once again, and we see our drivers just making their way on around currently or sat in the pit lane, the big question, of course, is what can we expect in the feature? Can we expect more of the same? Well, I think we will be seeing a bit more of a tyre management race in the feature. We've said that before with every feature race, but around here we have seen just how easy it is to get it wrong and how easy it can be to overheat the tyres or put them through an excessive wear cycle earlier into the race. So I think we will see a bit of aggression early on, but then things will calm down after the opening 7 to 8 minutes. We'll see things ignite once again in the final 5 minutes. But speaking of time will tell, it's time for us to head to the grid once again for the round 16 feature here today in Spain. And as our drivers make their way to the grid once again, this is how they line up for the feature race today. Emil Koopmans takes pole position for Apex Misters, joined by Glenn Humberstone, the silver driver there, starting on the front row for iRacing Team Purple. On row number 2, it's the silver pair of Jack Ward for UKSimRacing and the privateer Aaron Tressler. We have the gold pair on row 3 of Cameron Willacy for UKSimRacing and Blackout Motorsport New Zealand's Corey Lazarus. Then on row number 4, it's Lee Holmes for iRacing Team Purple, joined by UKSimRacing Esports Philipp Hammer, and then completed the top 10 SimRacing's Joe Newman, joined by Apex Misters Danny Hoogendoorn. On row 6 is Alistair Hatcher in the silver class, joined by his peer Craig Shield, both at iRacing Team at Siam. And then the final driver on row number 7, SimRacing's Nathan Foster, will line up last but not least and have it all to do in the final race of today. With the green process complete, ladies and gentlemen, we await the lights. 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. and it's lights out and away we go once again as Emil Cummins lets a good start. But meanwhile, look, flying out the blocks there, Corey Lazarus on the left-hand side of your picture. He's gained 1, he's gained 2, he's gained 3. But as they make the way down towards turn 1, it's going to be 4 wide as they break the way into the opening right-hander. And Lazarus is going for it. He's going for all the passes as they make the way through. There's a car around. That's Cummins loose in the rear. The field splits around as we can also see. I do believe that is Hammer getting it wrong. But as they make the way out to turns 1 and 2, Corey Lazarus has absolutely risen like Lazarus through the field. The man has made always their 5 places off the starting line, and as he comes roaring on down into turn number 4, can he make more places? As we can see there, Cameron Willacy up the inside of Glenn Humberstone, but Humberstone getting the cut back here, and it's almost as if all the gloves have come off since the sprint race as they make the way down, as they roll the way to turn number 5, and will Cameron Willacy fighting hard here for position as they roll the way through the left-hander, and now into the kink of 6. But the key thing here is that iRacing have come to play, and Cameron Willacy is not going to have it all his own way as they make the way out to turn at number 7. And Lee Holmes here continues to try and put the pressure on Humberstone as they look side by side into turn 9. But then Holmes getting on through. They're going round the outside and rolling now down towards turn 10. But Joe Newman immediately making sure that Humberstone knows he's coming on through as they break the way into left-hand hairpin. Well, Humberstone's going to carry the speed round the outside, but on cold tyres, there's only one way that's going to go, and as he will have to back out initially, but Newman gives him the space, and in doing so, just about gets the door shut in time, but goes overly deep there, and Newman almost off circuit, but catches the car just in time. But it's definitely a very eventful start here today in the feature race as they make the way down the hill. Well, meanwhile, rolling on to the next lap, it is Jack who leads as we bring up the circuit map in the top right corner of your screen and reload the overlay. But as they charge on down, Ward leads by an advantage of 4 tenths over Corey Lazarus in P2. Then you've got a 2-second gap to Aaron Tressler in P3, followed by Cameron Willacy P4, Lee Holmes P5, followed by Danny Hoogendoorn at P6 as they make the way into the opening corner once more. Hoogendoorn under pressure for Glenn Humberstone and Joe Newman, and then it's Emil Cummins who completes the run to P9. Cummins gets it slightly wrong, but not as wrong as what is down as the hatcher as he goes round and returns the car and ways to the rear of the circuit. As Philipp Hammer comes on through to pick up P10. But Hammer in a dramatic start today. It all went wrong for Hammer in the feature so far, but he's trying to make it right. Meanwhile, Aaron Tressler here being passed by Cameron Willacy as they come through turn number 4 and down the hill towards turn 5 to go. And Tressler not fighting this too hard. I think wary of the fact that he's just got to let the gold drivers do what they need to do. But Tressler loses the rear of the car at turn number 5, and there's everybody off there. And we can tell you it's not raining on the circuit right now. I don't think there's any oil on the circuit, but everybody is sliding off as we see Glenn Humberstone getting it wrong, and also I do believe it has been a tow to the pits for Joe Newman with issues to the car. But meanwhile, the drum's not done yet as we look back up to the front of the field, and Jack Wood here defending versus Corey Lazarus as they make the way up to Cakeson once more, and onto the brakes they go. And well, for Lazarus, it's all about picking the right time to pass, given the fact that Hammer's had a very difficult start to the race, albeit 7.5 seconds off, and we know that Hammer's pace, arguably on paper, is 7 to 9 tenths faster than anybody else over a single lap, albeit will he be able to deploy that knowing the mistakes that have been made. And as they come down through turn number 12, Lazarus just needs to time it right as we ride on board with him going on to the next lap. Now going through turn at number 13 on the power there, but the dirty air catching the car. He runs wide, and with that Chapman infringement, will he have to use a slowdown here? Well, I don't think so. In fact, he just toes in behind and just does not pick up enough speed to go for the move into turn 1 this time around. As he breaks his way down through the gearbox here. Bit of enthusiasm creeping into Lazarus right now, understandably so, because he can see his maiden win of the season here today. But Ward is definitely going to put everything he can into bringing home the win in the silver class. We have yet to see an overall silver winner, if my memory serves me correctly. And as they come out of turn 3 into 4, can Jack Ward be the first driver to achieve this in history? In fact, I do wonder whether in his mind already he is starting to think about exactly how he can hold off Lazarus as they make their way down into 5. And given the fact the next silver driver is Tressler, who is 11.5 seconds away, I don't think Ward's got to worry about needing to battle with another silver driver here today. He's just got to worry about one thing, and that is holding on to the lead of the race as they make their way through turn 7 and 8 once more. But meanwhile, looking a bit further back after these two had a very difficult start to their race, we can see here Emil Koopmans now under pressure from Philipp Hammer as they come up the hill into turn number 9. And as they make the way through the right hand here, off camber they go. well, for Hammer, it's all about picking his place up one by one. He does still have 25 minutes of racing to go. He's got a lot of time available to him, so it's not all done and dusted. And with the gap to leaders, only 6 seconds currently, with, of course, Ward and Lazarus starting to size one another up and naturally losing pace over the rest of the field as a result of it. We can imagine this field is going to gradually start to concertina back together, particularly the top 7 will be within arm's reach of one another within the next 15 minutes or so, given the rate of closure that we are seeing. As our drivers make their way on down, we can tell you with Craig Schill having that difficult start to his race, and also Joe Newman with that early retirement. We now only do have 11 drivers out on circuit. We had the retirement of Newman and Foster. Schill has returned to the circuit, albeit the difficulties. But meanwhile, we look to the front of the field here. Ward trying to cover off Lazarus, and well, Lazarus looking to the inside. He's very familiar with that inside line into turn number 1, but he hasn't quite made it count this time. But you can see already just how the field is closed up, as meanwhile, Hammer there on the inside of Koopmans and gets the move done for P6 in the what is the overall category, or P5 in the GT, not in the G3, in the Gold class, we should say. Of course, these cars are P992 at G3 Cup cars, but not racing G3 classification. They've got as much aero as the G3 that's coming later this year. But as they make their way into turn number 4, will the German driver of Hammer really putting down the pace as he makes his way out of 4 up towards 5 and try to now go hunting after Hugendorf. But you can imagine, after making the pass of one of the Apex Business drivers, the other one will be looking in his rearview mirror and thinking, okay, he's thwarted my teammate, but he's not going to get past me as easily. And as they come into turns 7 and 8 here, I think now Hugendorf will be starting to size up exactly where he can make himself as wide as possible. But as they roll their way up towards turn number 9, 2 drivers already cleared it, and you can see already the damage being done here with Lazarus not able to find his way past Ward as they come towards turn number 10. And Lazarus having to go defensive here versus Willacy as they power their way on out. Meanwhile, we can see that Hammer has already got up the inside of Hugendorf into turn number 10. Hammer's come through here, and I think Hugendorf and Coop is now deciding to work together and use Hammer as their metaphorical battering ram, if you will, in order to close up to the lead of this race. But in fact, it does look as though Hugendorf and Coop is both having a little bit of a spat between one another here as they make their way down through turn number 12. And I think Coop wants to get on through, but he's going to wait for the start-finish straight. Meanwhile, speaking of the start-finish straight here, we can see Jack Wall going quite slowly out the final corner, and Corey Lazarus takes the lead in this race for the first time today, and the first time in his Porsche Cup racing history is going to lead a lap. And Cameron Willacy also comes on through. The gold battle is on here as they make their way to turns 1 and 2 once again, and you see Ward there struggling for a lateral grip coming through turn 1. I think Jack Ward's pushed the car a little bit too hard, and he may just right now be trying to cool the tyres down as they make their way through turn number 3. Meanwhile, Lee Holmes continues to push on here. He wants to be inside that battle for the win as well in the gold class and overall. He does not want Ward keeping it at bay, but right now that's exactly what's happening here as the top 2 have already started to break away, and Holmes knows he's only got 2.6 seconds, if that, to Philipp Hammer, who is closing corner after corner as they make their way down into turn number 5. And as they come on out of the long left-hander here, we can see Hammer getting much closer already, and well, right now it is a ticking time bomb with regards to the fact the leaders will need to settle their battling, because they're very shortly going to have the championship leader in the gold class knocking on their door saying, do you mind if you let me through? Well, they'll all want to try and keep Hammer at bay, but we know there are 2 things inevitable here in Spain. One's the heat, and the other is that Philipp Hammer is hunting another win as he makes his way out of turn number 9 and down towards 10. Meanwhile, further back, Emil Cooper's there, another poor run out of turn number 9, and as a result, the Dutchman loses out, but then it looks like Hugendorf was slowed down as well, so the 2 of them in the end decide to swap up the places for mutual benefit. But as they make their way out of the corner and down towards turn number 11, meanwhile, we do look from them to Alistair Hatcher, who I believe has recently found his way past Aaron Trester, with Trester having another off-track at turns 7 and 8, and it has been a very mixed set of fortunes so far. The win in the sprint completely undermined now of a difficult feature race for Trester, but still, he'll take what he's been able to get today, and I think he'll still be smiling come the end of it. Meanwhile, we look back up to the top 3 here, and indeed, we look now to the battle for P3 between Jack Ward and Lee Holmes. Ward, your silver leader still, as he makes his way down to turn number 1. Holmes trying to find his way on through, and as we jump aboard the gearbox here of the P3 driver, a little bit out of sorts again, just slightly rattled, I think, with the intensity of the pressure as they made the way out of 2 into 3. Although that's not to besmirch him, but Ward right now really competing for an overall podium and trying to do everything he can to hold on to it. And Holmes, well, in equal measure, trying to really turn the screw here and put the pressure on. But as they come out of turn number 4, one of the things as well, if you are up against a driver who you can feel you can put a lot of pressure on, this is the prime circuit to really get into the head because this circuit demands so much precision, time after time, lap after lap, corner after corner, and right now Holmes is definitely right there, egging onward into a mistake. Ward showing consistency so far, not making too many errors, just a slight couple of lockups into turn number 1, but beyond that there doesn't seem to be any other vulnerable corner. And as they come through turn number 9, you can see that Ward going a little bit deep on the corner apex once again, and it just enables Holmes to get closer to corner exit, but thankfully it's a short run, and given the lack of closing speed here we're seeing from Holmes, I reckon he's running a lot more downforces Holmes compared to Ward as they come through in turn number 10. We have typically seen the Willacy Racing team run less downforce in their cars compared to their peers. They placed a lot of emphasis on the straight line speed and the ability therefore to thwart drivers who are faster through the corners but just simply have not got the top end speed to match up. But as they make the way down through turn number 12 at the moment, Ward needs to get those solid corner exits to be able to carry the speed on the straights, as otherwise Holmes will get an opportunity. And as they come out of the final corner and head up towards turn number 1, charging all the way down, we do say hello there to Matt Maddox, who says, sorry I can't be there, great race though guys, nice to watch it live, and we're glad to have you with us, Matt, hope you're well. And as we see Ward here, well under pressure again, but you'll notice how Holmes, he takes the look for the move, but this is the exact point of the speed differential there. Holmes can get close, but he's not within 1.5 tenths, and that's where you need to be. But coming through the sweeping of 1 to 2, through that chicane sequence if you will, Jack Ward looks absolutely vulnerable, but again, he just needs to put the car on the apex of 3, and then Holmes has to try and find a way to stay that close all the way into the next corner. And given the speed differences of these cars with the amount of rear wing that's being run, that's where Holmes is just struggling. And now what this means is Holmes has got to deal with the inevitable that's arisen behind him, and that is Philipp Hammer, the WS Racing esports driver, who is now there and looking to pick up P3 in the gold class. Whereas they make the way through the King of 6, we jump on board here with the number 60 driver rolling his way into turn 7 on the brakes, taking a lot of apex curbing, having to settle the car down, and you can see the car sliding off the curbing, Hammer battering the curb, and as they come through the right-hander, will you now Holmes slightly off apex there, Hammer carrying the speed on through, getting closer and closer, 2 tenths is the delta as they make the way onto the brakes very shortly into turn number 10, but Hammer not trying to test his luck here by going up the inside instead of waiting. And Holmes goes a little bit deep as we're hearing that for Emil Koemans there has been an unfortunate retirement. I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but Koemans listed as retired on our timetable. We'll come back to that very shortly. But meanwhile, Hammer here powering out of the corner and into turn number 12. But you can see here, Hammer really now inching into that position whereby if he gets a good run out of 13 here, well, Holmes will have the toe of Ward, but in return Hammer will have the double toe, and I think he'll also have that natural run out the corner that gives him the advantage now within a single tenth here. Holmes has got to decide, does he go defensive or does he let Hammer go for the move? Well, he's not going to make a move here. Hammer looks up the inside, they're going to battle the way down to turn 1. Holmes backs it off slightly as Hammer goes all in, and well, Holmes I think in the end decided just to thread the needle back into the order here, and that's Hammer's up into P4 overall, into 3rd in the gold class as they make the way through the right-hander of turn number 3 and onwards towards 4 here. We're not even at the halfway point of this race. Would you believe it? We've still got 17 minutes to go, and there you can see just off in the distance the leaders as they made the way to turn number 4. Well, Hammer may have had a very eventful start to this race, but we can tell you now that it's going to be one of those ones where he's bringing it back under control, but now he has to deal with Jack Ward, and these two, well, they have raced each other to a degree, and as they make the way out of turn number 5, Hammer gets a lovely cut back there, but it's all for naught if Ward could just simply bury the throttle and say, okay, that's nice, but watch how I fly on the straight acceleration gain. And as they make the way out of turn 7 and 8 here, again, Hammer all over the back of Ward, but Ward just unrelenting in his ability to place the car right on corner apex, make it as wide as possible, and then put the throttle down and just simply say, you haven't got enough here to outrun me to the next corner. But as they come into turn number 10, I think what Hammer will be looking to do is try and get Ward just to go a little bit deep, really get under his skin, try and get the nose in under brake, and that's exactly what's happened here as they come through 10 into 11. Hammer's going to try and go round the outside, but Ward there making sure to let Hammer know that it's only one way round, and we can see there Holmes trying to make the move, bound to back off there, a little bit of a wobble, some oversteer mid-corner apex, and as they come down into turn number 13, Ward once again now just needing to plant the throttle, nice corner exit here, and he'll have enough for Willie. The gap is 1.7 tenths, so they make the way across the timeline. They charge their way down towards turn 1. Well, Hammer is close enough here. The straight line speed's not going to be enough. Ward's got to defend, and as they make the way down, there's a little tap between the two of them. But in the end, Hammer up the inside here. Ward tries to outbrake Hammer into the corner. He does so, and Ward beats Hammer at his own game on the brakes. But as he comes on through turn 2. It's a bit too much curve, and Wood goes round there, and Hammer goes through as they make their way into turn number 3. It's really unfortunate for Jack Wood, but now if that's a sign of anything, Wood will now know to back it off and just simply bring the car home for the silver win to make it another win in his books. But meanwhile, we're hearing that there has been a jump to the pits, or a toe to the pits, for Danny Hugendorn, who's shot to P10. We'll give you a replay of what's happened there very shortly. But as we can see here, Philipp Hammer right now, his next target will be Cameron Willacy, and Willacy only, what is there, 2.5 seconds up the road, and in turn he's 2.5 seconds off your race leader, Corey Lazarus, as they make the way out to turns 7 and 8 once again. But as we do look to your race leader, well, of course, we have had a lot of action over the beginning of this race in the first half, and let's take a look back firstly to that race start and Corey Lazarus' charge into P2. Now, of course, starting from what was there, the third row of the grid, and in fact the fourth row of the grid, as he got the throttle down, powering on through, and just look at the move here as he went up the inside, nailed the start, and as he charged on through, gate 1, gate 2, gate 3, gate 4 places, and then look for the move on Jack Ward here. Was it going to happen in the end? No, too tight on the inside line, also cold brakes and tyres, meaning he had to play it smart, but to be fair, to gain 4 places off the launch there alone, absolutely sensational. Now, what exactly happened to Philipp Hammer in that race start, meanwhile? Well, we saw him start from the 4th row, and we should clarify there, Corey Lazarus started on the 3rd row, and as they made the way away, Philipp Hammer, by comparison, having a relatively average start here in the drag race versus Lee Holmes. You'll see the two of them together, but what's interesting here, notice how Hammer in the end ducked to the inside initially, looking on through for a potential move here, but having to back out with Tressler defending, and as they rolled the way in, well, a bit of contact there between the simracing car, but Hammer into the back then of the A-Tech Racing Team Purple machine, and that's what led to him going off circuit, albeit just missing the barrier there, using a little bit of the runoff escape road to stabilise the car. And meanwhile, Emil Koopman's been involved in a little bit of a moment. His perspective of this race start, of course, starting from what was pole position with the reverse grid pole, and as he made his way off the line, well, for Koopmans here, it was all about trying to recover what he'd lost in terms of quite an abysmal start, with Jack Ward getting a much stronger start by comparison. But as he made his way down, Koopmans really nailing the second phase of the start, and as they came into the corner here on the outside, using a lot of the curb in there, broke his way down. A small tap from Cameron Willacy, and Willacy, meanwhile, getting away with it there with further contact with another car that helped him keep it on the straight and narrow. We're not quite sure who that was, but the Willacy racing driver there getting away with what could have been a rather nasty incident for the pair of them, but Koopman's losing out massively as we now return to the live pictures here, and well, we've been away for a minute, but as the time has worn on, we can see here Corey Lazarus still leading, and that gap between himself and Cameron Willacy now 2.6 seconds. It's opening up little by little as they come on down through 12 and into 13. But meanwhile, the man who is definitely right now on a mission here to upset what will be a new name into the books for the Porsche Cup Gold class with regards to bringing home the win, Philipp Hammer here looking to make it 2 wins out of 2. That last lap, a 45.456. To put that in perspective, that's a second faster than your race leader. Hammer right now is showing no signs of sensitivity, showing no signs of slowing down. The man is trying to turn things around after what was a difficult start. Of course, he was expecting it to be a relatively calm start. We've normally seen Hammer in these feature races. He has a slow start. He just simply stays in P8 or tries to gain 1 or 2 places on the opening lap. And he lets it calm down, lets the field open up a little bit, and then starts to put the laps in. But right now, Hammer has definitely had to really fight back in this one after that start, almost seeing him into the wall. But as he makes his way down into turn number 5, now only 2 more places separate him from a back-to-back victories once again. What effectively will be a gold crown that is his before the end of the season. Powering his way into turns at 7 and 8 here, still staying close to Cameron Willacy, but now starting to really feel that dirty air off of the back of the Willacy racing driver. And in his mind at this point, of course, we jump aboard the gearbox of Cameron Willacy. What does Philipp Hammer have to start to do? Well, he now starts to have to react to that dirty air. So when he turns into the medium speed and the high speed corners, he has to either bleed off a little bit of speed earlier on if he needs to shave it off, or he has to turn in slightly earlier, because naturally what will happen is the dirty air will cause the car to want to understeer, and in these lower speed corners, such as turns 10 and 11, or as we exit 11, what he also has to do here is just get the car settled as he tries to power from corner apex and onto corner exits. Again, the dirty air will start to cause the car to want to slide around the front end. He won't have as much front end grip or downforce, and therefore he won't be able to be as aggressive. So therefore as they make the way onto the start of this race. This is where being in the toe really helps. Of course, he'll gain the time, but Cameron Willacy, much like his teammate of Jack Ward, showing a lot of speed on the straights, albeit a bit less speed here from Cameron Willacy, but I believe he is running some damage on the car given the contacts in the opening lap, and therefore the Willacy racing driver here will be compromised in terms of his aspirations by a couple of miles an hour. And as they make the way out 2 into 3, well, Hammer having a first shot on the move there, looking outside to inside for turns 1 and 2, but Willacy getting the elbows out there and saying no way through for you as they make the way up towards turn 4. But again, now Hammer knows what Willacy will try to do into turn 1, so he's got that information in the bank, and now as they make the way around the remainder of the lap, if he can take a little bit of a poke here or there and look for another move, he'll do so. And this is the thing, when you've got 10 minutes to go and the race leader is only 2.8 seconds away, you can really plan out these overtakes. You can think about, okay, where can I get into my opponent's head? Where is he sensitive to a potential move? Where is he very strong against moves, etc.? And that's what Hammer we have seen. Of course, when he takes these slow approaches to the feature races, he is constantly studying his rivals, essentially building a book on them in the cockpit as he makes his way out to 9. And by the end of it, he'll have all the answers in that book in terms of where he can make that effective pass. But charge on down the back straight, he won't be looking for the pass currently. And meanwhile, we have heard further down the field into P7 has gone Aaron Tressler, who's got ahead of Craig Schill in the battle for P3 in the silver class. And we'll take a look back at exactly what's happened there very shortly as Hammer here looks to get the better run out of turn 11. Much closer to the apex curve there at the midpoint and on the transitional corner exit. But notice how Willacy really still holding firm and trying to keep that gap at 4 tenths here. And I think that's where he feels safe. If he'd have a 4 tenths of a second advantage coming out the final corner, then it gives him all the breathing room he needs. Albeit as they come across the timeline this time, you can see Hammer's lap times now starting to hit the proverbial brick wall as he's having to battle his way past another car. And as they come down towards turn 1, well, this time Willacy goes defensive again. Hammer looks outside to inside, but he goes for a cutback this time. But Hammer takes a bit too much apex curve, but in return he does get nice and close here to the back of Willacy. And as they make the way through turn number 3 and up towards 4, well, he's inching ever closer. I think a move could be on the cards. Willacy sees it's coming. He puts the car in the middle of the road. Hammer looks to the outside here. Will he cut it back? Will he dummy it to the inside? Well, he stays on the outside there. He tries to go around, but then he can't quite find it. Willacy keeps to at bay, and Hammer now knows he probably will have to set up a dummy or a cutback here in order to make the move count as they make the way to 5, because Willacy is seeing those moves on the outside coming. But as they come off of turn 5 and down towards 7, they charge. Willacy again having to defend here through the kick, and Hammer right now all over the back of Cameron Willacy like a bad rash here. And the only way through it for Hammer now is he's got to really exert that pressure. He's got to get the car fully alongside here, because if Willacy sees him there on the outside, even by a quarter panel, there's going to be no way through it unless the two take the whole pace out the race. But as they charge away down the back straight again, Willacy defended to the inside. Hammer look around the outside here. Onto the brakes they go. It's going to be very tricky here. Hammer may just be able to make it count. They both get on the power. Hammer goes a little bit deep there to give his rival the space. And as they make their way out now again to the outside here, Hammer really testing all the width of the circuit and how far he can push the extremities of grip for the Porsche, but going a little bit deep there at turn number 11 and finding the edge of the adhesion. And as a result now he's reset and got to do it again as they power their way onto the start finish straight, and we jump on board here with the WS Racing esports driver. Now being up through the gearbox, he's seen that looking to go around the outside, Willacy's just going to make it difficult. He's also seen a long run down towards turn 1. Willacy will defend that inside absolutely adamantly, but this time as they break the way down, well, they're fully alongside, they break the way into the opening corner, and Hammer goes round the outside, but Willacy there still gives them the space as they come through too. Hammer's almost got it done, but as they come into 3, Willacy defends here, puts the car tight on the inside, but Hammer now knows that he's got Willacy up against the ropes. It's like a boxing match, if you will, albeit they're not taking shades out of the cars. But as they make the way underneath the bridge and up towards turn number 4, well, look who's getting ever closer again at Lee Holmes, who had fallen out of this battle, now finds himself well within 8 tenths as they make the way out of turn 4 and down towards 5. And he could very yet have an opportunity to get back onto the podium here with 6 minutes to go. And Corey Lazarus right now, your race leader, just running off in the distance, 4.3 seconds clear. He just doesn't need to make any mistakes. Meanwhile, whilst we do have a brief breather, we take a look back at how Aaron Tressler found P7 or P3 in the silver class. We can see that as he made his way out to turn number 5, it was a slowdown penalty for Craig Schill, and as a result, just making the move there and making it stick. But as we return to the live pictures, great battle indeed. I agree with you there, XKX, as the drivers make the way on through it, and we briefly do lose Cameron Willacy there, and of course, it will will be something on the mind of Philipp Hammer. He will be seeing Willacy fade in and out with regards to connectivity, and therefore he's got to be ready for when Willacy does reappear, something that'll be on his mind and won't be helping. I think Hammer will now know exactly what he can do here. He's had enough time behind the second place driver, and well, as they come down towards the end of another lap, they've so far turned 14 laps in anger in the second race of today, and they are going to have another 3, including the lap they've gone on to, as Corey Lazarus leads this race ahead of Cameron Willacy, with Philipp Hammer in close pursuit for P2, and then Lee Holmes not too far behind in the battle for overall and the gold class. But as they break their way down to turn 1 this time, Hammer goes very deep, but he locks up into 1, carrying too much speed, and Lee Holmes comes on through as well, and Hammer there being absolutely confounded, flustered and frustrated in trying to find the move, and in the end, Cameron Willacy, the first time we've seen it all season, somebody has been able to get under the skin of Philipp Hammer and frustrate him out of a move. Well, to be fair, after what is 15 rounds of racing action for it to happen in round 16, that is credit to just how deep the vocabulary in the racing market of Philipp Hammer goes. But in the end, somebody has finally found a way to keep Hammer at bay, and Cameron Willacy will now need to use all what he's built up here to keep Lee Holmes at bay, and the ATEC Racing Team Purple driver, he's had plenty of time to study this. He's now got an opportunity to try and find P2 here as he makes his way up into turn number 9, but can he find it? That will be the question. As they come through turn number 9 and roll the way out here. Indeed, I think Nathan Scott's summing it up nicely. There's no easy feat to hold off the Hammer in reference to Philipp Hammer, but right now Willacy has found it. But Lee Holmes, of course, well, this is going to be a bit of an unknown for Cameron Willacy. He's had a lot of experience battling with Hammer and also with some of his other peers in the gold class, but not too much in battling with Lee Holmes. And Holmes, a very different approach to attacking here, much less aggressive initially, and really does try to lull you into a sense of security before you do make one of those mistakes as they come on down through turn number 12. Of course, now the tyres will be really starting to feel that they are on the edge in terms of the amount of wear that's been picked up over the course of today. And as they make their way out of the final corner, heading onto the start finish straight, and Hammer with a little run wide there. I think it may be the WS Racing Esports driver. 2 laps remaining here, and perhaps the tyres now just not able to stay within the window any longer. But as they head the way down, we do look to Jack Ward, your race leader in the silver class, P5 overall, with what is there a 7-second advantage over Glenn Humberstone. And more Humberstone coming on through onto the start for the straight here as he makes his way across the line. P6 for ATEC Racing Team Purple, enjoying a strong drive here today with a 16-second advantage over Aaron Tressler, who is continuing to close that gap rapidly. But meanwhile, we look back to Cameron Willacy and jump aboard the gearbox here of the number 43 car as he continues to try and fend off Lee Holmes. Not long left to go, and of course it's in these closing stages where the mistakes can be the most costly and also the most likely to happen, because it's tied arms and legs. You've got a car that's been pushed hard, it's got tyre wear, it's also got less fuel, which means it's lighter, it's more sensitive to direction changes. And what is Catalunya known for, of course? Direction changes. I try to make the way up towards turn number 9, and of course this circuit also known, a little bit of history very quickly, for name changes, originally known as the Circuit de Catalunya, but due to a sponsorship role from the city of Barcelona, that's why the name of Barcelona was added to the title, and that's known as the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. But history aside here, of course, Willacy and Holmes making their first history racing against one another here today in terms of direct battle for P2, and as they come out of 10 and into 11, running the way through the right-hander here. Well, for now, it does look as though Hammer is being brought back into the fight, but with one more lap on the cards, they're nowhere near close to this man as he comes on through the final quarter to go one more time. Victory is always within his grasp, but can the Blackout Motorsport New Zealand driver Corey Lazarus keep his head down for one more lap? As meanwhile, making the way across the timeline in hot pursuit is Cameron Willacy, Lee Holmes and Philipp Hammer. But the story is here today that Cameron Willacy has put himself firmly in control of this P2 position, and Lee Holmes will have one shot at this as they make the way into turn 1. He tries to do what Hammer could not do, and that is make the pass on the outside. But as they come through turns 1 and 2, he's kept at bay, and now they come into turn 3. Of course, now Willacy will be thinking about where does he need to put the car next to fend off Holmes, but I think Holmes has got a bigger question here, is where does he need to be for when Hammer tries to look up the inside. Well, the door's fully open and Hammer's going to look for it into turn 4. A little bit of compression there, and Holmes covers him off, and Hammer not close enough to force the move in the end. really having to rely on Holmes open up the door psychologically, and as they come down towards turn number 5, all three drives their line astern, but Hammer goes overly deep, and with that I think Philipp Hammer's race is going to be settled in P4 as he just misses the corner there and puts it all onto the gravel, and once you put one and all the others will follow. But meanwhile Willacy here still hold on to P2 for now. He's kept on the charge of Holmes going into this lap. Holmes 4 tenths behind, and as they come through turn 9 and down towards turn number 10, I think there may not be much life left in this battle for P2. In terms of Holmes will not be close enough here. I think it relies on Willacy making one last error, but that's one thing we have not seen from Cameron Willacy is an error here today. And as they come out to turn number 10 and into 11, running through the left into right here, well, the time has ticked down. 30 minutes are complete. We are on the final lap, and as they head on through turns 11, it's been a fantastic battle for them, but it's been a fantastic return to form for Blackout Motorsport New Zealand, as their one and only Corey Lazarus will come to line to pick up his maiden overall and gold class win. Winner by 5 seconds in the end over Cameron Willacy, who holds on to P2 for Willacy Racing, ahead of Lee Holmes at the line for ATEC Racing Team Purple. And then it will be Philipp Hammer, who with this 4th place today, I do believe will have confirmed his status as gold champion going into the season finale. And then it will be another silver class podium and win today for Jack Ward, P5 overall for Willacy Racing. Looking at 1 point to make it an overall win. It wasn't to be, but brilliant driving from him, ahead of ATEC Racing Team Purple's Glenn Humberstone, P2 in the silver class, P6 overall. And then we do have a 14-second gap before we do see your third and final driver on the silver podium, winner in the sprint, but not able to make it 2 out of 2. Aaron Tressler, the privateer, picking up his 2 maiden podiums as he comes across the line. And then it will be Craig Schill who comes on through for P8 there, P4 in the silver class, ahead of Alistair Hatcher, your final driver to make it to the checkered flag here. 9 finishers out of the starting field of 13, with 4 retirements there, and it was the retirements of Danny Hugendorn, Emil Koopmans, Joe Newman and Nathan Foster. But what a race there, and indeed the 2 teammates coming into contact with one another, and it does look as though, well, who was in the purple car has been sent to the stratosphere. I think ATEC Racing Team Sign have enjoyed the racing today. It has been tough for the pair of them, but as we do see Jack Ward there on the exit turn number 2, I think very pleased with the result. A fantastic race to wrap up the proceedings here today in Spain, and let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, of course. Well, we can see there your confirmed winner, Corey Lazarus for Blackout Motorsport New Zealand, picking up his first win of his Porsche Cup season campaign, and 5 seconds clear in the end of Willacy Races is Cameron Willacy, and then ATEC Racing Team Purple's Lee Holmes to complete the gold and the overall podium. A hard-fought battle for P2, but Cameron Willacy came out on top, and Philipp Hammer there knowing all about it, finishing P4 in the end for WS Racing Esports. But of course, congratulations to Philipp Hammer with a win in the sprint and what was the 4th place in the feature. I do believe it does mean it has cemented his status as our Season 5 gold champion, or effectively, unless he were not to complete both races next time out, he will be conferred champion by default. Jack Ward at P5 there, silver winner for Willacy Racing in the feature, 22.8 seconds off of the race winners, but the one thing that matters to him is that he kept Glenn Humberstone at bay for ATEC Racing Team Purple. And then Aaron Tressler completed the silver podium, P7 the privateer. P8 there, Craig Schill, not to be his day-to-day for ATEC Racing Team Cyan, but getting one over his teammate Alistair Hatcher. And then we can see Danny Hugendorf for Apex Misses finishing P10 there, albeit I believe that will be classified as a non-finish as he did retire before reaching the 50% distance, 9 laps from the end. And then Will Koopmans there retiring 11 laps from the end for Apex Misses. And then Joe Newman from Simracing Racing with the early retirement, 16 laps from the finish, and with 17 laps being completed, Nathan Foster not making it to the grid and therefore retiring before he could get underway for Simracing Racing. It's been a difficult day for both Apex Misses and Simracing Racing, but it's been a superb day for a good number of teams, including Willacy Racing and Blackout Motorsport New Zealand. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, now we give our drivers about 10 minutes to rest before we bring them back for their post-round interviews. It's been a fantastic pair of races in Spain, but what do our drivers have to say all about it? We'll find out very shortly. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for us to kick off our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. Now, my voice already almost giving it away. It'll be a good opportunity to hear from our other drivers instead and give my voice a rest. And we've got 3 drivers available today. We'll be starting off with our maiden gold winner of Corey Lazarus there in the 44 Blackout Motorsport New Zealand car. After a brilliant drive to a podium in the sprint, bringing home the win. And then we'll be hearing from our silver maiden winner of Aaron Tressler, and also maiden pole sitter today as well. The priority with the win in the sprint, but a feature race that wasn't to be his. And then Cameron Willacy, of course, our gold driver for UKSimRacing, had a difficult sprint but found a way to keep Hammer at bay and bring on home P2 in the feature. But as we kick off immediately here then with Corey Lazarus, it's going to be interesting to hear his perspective on what was definitely a tough race today, but one that we was able to deliver. There's no doubt about it. And as he does join me now in the interview room, Corey, well, you've finally done it. You've brought home your maiden win in the Porsche Cup Series, and what a way to do it on your return, unexpected return, but bringing it on home in a feature race that had it all, including perhaps the best launch off the line. You must be absolutely jumping up and down in joy.
Morning, Paul. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. Yeah, it was very unexpected, to be honest. The start, been struggling a little bit with the update and really haven't had a lot of time in the car since the update. But yeah, the start was a ripper. I was stoked with that and just happy the lads on my inside just held their lines. It just opened up a little bit and just try to, keep brake early and keep distance to everybody, and it just worked out from there. It was just a bit of trying to keep up with Jack. He was quick.
Oh, indeed. But dialing it all the way back, of course, it's not just about your start today, but you did start the day off with a very good qualifying session. In the end, qualifying P5, but not too far off the pace. And given the fact you haven't been with us for a few rounds, was qualifying just as much about shaking off the rust as it was finding your feet again?
It was more of shaking out the sleep from my eyes. Was up to 11:30 last night with another bloke I'm still having technical issues with my steering wheel that I bought, and we couldn't get it resolved last night, so I'm using a borrowed steering wheel from a mate, and so it was lack of sleep last night, and yeah, I think it was still half asleep in qualifying. I pushed a can of Red Bull down my throat nice and early and tried to just wake up, and yeah, it was just more of keeping it on the track because the off tracks here are horrendous. So qualify was more of just trying to keep it on the track, really.
Well, you managed to do so, qualified at P5, and then in the sprint race, a good start for yourself and making ground gradually in the end, finishing P3.
Yeah, Lee was quick in front of us, and Hammer is always as quick. And I'm not too sure what was going on behind us, but we seemed to pull a little bit of a gap, the front 3. And really didn't put too much of a dent into Lee. His pace has improved a heck of a lot over the last 12 months, and it shows. So yeah, it was just staying on the track and trying to stay as close as possible to Lee, really.
Now, we talked about the off-tracks only moments ago, particularly in qualifying. Were you starting to find in the race itself the risk of off-tracks was prevalent, or was it something that started to slip from your mind?
From mid-race onwards, it was sort of out the back of my mind because I managed to stay clean for the first half of the race. I think I only had like 4 or so incident points up until midpoint, there or thereabouts. Not even that. So from midpoint onwards, it was just watching the delta and trying to just keep consistent lap times and hit the brake markers. And really didn't worry about the off-track so much from midpoint. They didn't really factor in at all.
Well, that's good to hear, and I think, well, that confidence growing in the sprint race. Of course, we've talked a little bit about the start in the feature, but starting from the 3rd row of the grid, I have to ask you, did you expect to end up that far up the order and battling with Jack Ward so early on for the win?
No, not at all. Not at all. With the limited time back in the car, I've really struggled with the starts. More often than not, I've been lighting up the rears, and I've just done a little bit of practice over the last few nights, just trying to ease it off a bit. And I'm not sure if it was a combination of other guys in front of me not quite launching as well as they'd like, but yeah, I probably couldn't have got off the line too much better than what we did this morning, sorry.
Well, it was a fantastic start, and making your way into turn 1 at 1.4 wide, but surviving it all, and then finding yourself having to hunt down a silver leader who just never seemed to want to give in.
Yeah, dead right. Go down that front straight. It was really a case of just trying to hold line and, have to pay due respect to the guys on the inside. They all just held it straight. I saw somebody go round behind me. I'm not sure what happened there, but then, yeah, just Jack had great pace at the start, and if it wasn't for his own error coming onto the front straight, he probably would have held the lead for a lot longer. And he was holding us up, defending really well, and I could see the boys coming up from behind. So yeah, like if Jack didn't make that mistake, he probably held on for a lot longer.
Well, thankfully for yourself, a mistake was made because, as we like to say, there's only two things that are certain in Spain. The first is the heat, and the second thing is that Philipp Hammer is going to be coming your way at some point in the feature race. And after you passed Jack, were you looking behind at all thinking, okay, Hammer's now up to, say, P4, he's getting closer and closer, or was it just keep pushing, don't think about what's behind?
Definitely a combination of both. It was I could see him coming up the up the standings, but the relative wasn't changing too much. It was around that 3 to 4 second mark for the majority of the race, and the clock just seemed to tick down quite quickly. And Cam behind me did a tremendous job trying to hold his position, which inevitably led to them having a fight, and took the pressure off me. Really, I just kept it on the track, and the delta just kept steady.
Well, it was an absolutely solid drive all the way throughout after you've made the move. And I have to ask, how were the tyres feeling over the course of the 30 minutes?
Not too bad, actually. There was quite a lot of preservation early, changing gears really early, just trying to keep off the gas too hard. And those couple of laps at the start, hanging behind Jack, sort of helped them a little bit. Definitely conscious of the tyre wear because the other leagues we've done here, I've churned through them really badly. So this time it was actually really good. They actually felt good towards the end of the race. There was no complaints.
Well, they looked absolutely good, and your pace staying consistent all the way throughout to bring home your maiden win. And of course, well, it's been a while since we've seen you dealing with those technical issues, but to come back and pick up your maiden win with another pair of rounds still to go, it must feel like a dream come true.
Yeah, I was pretty happy at the end of it, to be perfectly honest. It's just, there's so many things going on. It's been such a real drainer, and I've had guys, from even out of the country trying to help me to get all my wheel stuff sorted. It's just been one thing after the other. So yeah, it was like a massive weight off the shoulders to cross the line. I was pretty happy.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant to hear, and we're all the more happy to have you back out racing with us. And speaking of which, 2 more rounds to go. We head back to Florida next week for the Sebring International Raceway. As we understand it, it's going to be Blackout Motorsport New Zealand in full force, with your teammate Samuel K. Sprout also attending. How are you feeling for the season finale?
Pretty excited. On one hand, super stoked to have Sammy back, and I love Sebring. It's such a cool track. It's bumpy. It's a real test. There's real tight braking zones. It's narrow. There's not any room for error. So I'm absolutely looking forward to this one. It's going to be great.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Corey, just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast this morning?
Yeah, a big thanks to the guys that have been helping me. Magnus, Simon, Nathan, and Sam. They've put in so much time trying to get all my technical issues sorted. It's going to be really hard to repay them. So just a massive thanks for all of their efforts. And Sam's over in New Zealand promoting in, trying to help me with all this stuff. So huge help. And big thanks to Sam and of course UKSR and yourself, Paul, for putting on an awesome league. It's fun. And the guys on the track tonight were awesome, keeping it clean. Thank you.
Well, thank you to you as always, Corey, for joining us in the interview room. It has been a pleasure. Congratulations on your double podium, including your maiden win in the series. And, well, we hope you have a great day ahead of yourself, and we look forward to seeing how you get on in a week's time at Sebring.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it, mate. We'll see you soon.
All the best. So hearing there from Corey Lazarus, our Blackout Motorsport New Zealand gold driver, who really picked up a gold star today when it comes to fighting back after all those technical issues with the steering wheel, but find a way to get it all to work and making it count with a double podium and the win, of course, in the feature, a maiden win. And, well, I think with any sort of launch like that, and I'm going to put it there, that's probably the best race start we've seen from any driver in the career of the Porsche Cup Championship, not just in this season, but over all 5 seasons so far. Feel free to debate it in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. But Corey Lazarus there, definitely redeeming what has been a difficult season with technical issues by immediately coming on to fighting form. And we look forward to seeing how he and the team get on in Florida for the season finale. As we now come to our second interviewee of today, we'll be very shortly speaking to our silver driver of Aaron Trester, and of course bringing home his maiden win today and maiden pole position. Now, as we do ask him to join us, it's going to be interesting to hear his thoughts on what was quite a challenging race, particularly in race number 2, but at the same time as well, hey, great start to his campaign. And as he does join me now, Aaron, a fantastic set of drives today in qualifying and the sprint, bringing home a maiden pole position and also your maiden win in the series. Couldn't quite make it back-to-back wins in the feature with some difficulty and ended up 3rd place, but still a double podium. You must be very pleased given the fact you've only been part of this championship for a short period of time.
Yeah. I don't know where to start, to be honest. I didn't expect any of this when I first started. Coming out and winning today in my class, that was I was quite proud of that. But in the second race, I seemed to run out of talent and pull back a bit to not where I wanted to be, but ended up pulling back all the way up into the podium. So quite happy with that.
Let's talk a little bit about your qualifying session. We saw you leave it to quite late in the day to set a lap, and in the end, it was enough to take pole in class. Was qualifying difficult? Did you have difficulty finding the time, or did you decide you'd save it up for that single ultimate lap?
Well, I went out as quick as I could to start with. I thought I'll probably get 3 laps in there. Started the warm-up lap and I went off, so I had to rejoin the track as quick as I could. And then I got into my quali lap, started it off, good start, and then I locked up going to the first corner. So went off, so I was like, I'll just restart and go again. So then the next lap I went round and messed up again, and then I sort of escaped and went for one final attempt. I literally crossed the line with literally like probably 2-3 seconds left to go. And I pulled out a lap. I didn't even know where I was on the grid until I checked afterwards, because I was just trying to get my head down and get around without going off or making a mistake.
Well, you definitely made that one lap count, and we got to see you cross the line with only, as you say, a couple of seconds remaining. And then going into the sprint race, a strong start from yourself, and you never seemed to look back after fending off your rivals going into turn 1.
Yeah, well, my theory is always just survive the first few corners, don't do anything stupid, make any stupid moves, and just go from there, really. So there's more laps ahead of me, so I just didn't want to lose out on any positions, because I knew I was a top silver, so I just wanted to stick where I was and go from there.
Indeed, a smart approach to it. I have to ask, was there a temptation at any point to try and put one over on some of the gold drivers around you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It goes through my mind. I was like, can I make a move here or that? But I was like, I just don't want to do anything stupid and ruin my own race.
Indeed, a very sensible approach to that. And then coming into the feature race, of course, didn't quite go the way you wanted to from the start, and it was a very crowded start down into turn 1.
Yeah, I thought I got a decent launch from the start, and then next second I see Cam going around my left and Corey going up my right, and I was like, oh, here we go. The next second I see the scramble of cars, and it's like 4 or 5 wide going down to turn 1. I was like, I'm just backing out, because I thought nothing's going to go well here. And then I see Cam and Cara, I don't know who it was on the outside, but they clipped each other and sort of went half round. So I was like, oh, where do I go? So I was on the outside of, I think it was Glenn, and I literally just floored it and dived up through the middle to try and escape, and he got me up into 3rd. And then I just tried pulling a bit of a gap, and then I think it was Lee Holmes, caught up to me, and I just made a bit of a mistake and spun it, and I went round. into the gravel, and then as I was sat there waiting to rejoin, because I didn't want to rejoin in front of anyone, two cars went off and nearly into the side of me, so I was quite fortunate there. And yeah, about it really on the start.
Well, indeed, a very eventful start from your perspective, and then the remainder of the race here was all about trying to find the time you'd lost. And we did see a couple of small errors from yourself, but you kept at it and gradually started to pick your way back up to the podium.
Yeah, the throughout the race, I just couldn't seem to get the tyres going, and I kept seemed to making mistakes here and there, costing a little bit of time, and then I made a big mistake on one of the curbs, which he just absolutely threw me off, and I got stuck into the wall a bit, and then dropped me all the way down into last. And I just seemed to go all out, forgetting how much time I had left, and just seeing how much time I could get back on the guys in front. And I managed to pull back on Hatcher and Shill, who I thought I was going to have a bit of a battle with when I got to him, but he just seemed to let me through, which I don't mind. But yeah, there's a lot of work, and after that my tyres were dead, so just try and keep the car in a straight line and make it to the end.
Indeed, just on that tyre regard, of course, just from the perspective of our viewers, when you're running around a circuit which is known for having a wide variety of corners and the tyres have gone, what does that do, particularly with the number of hairpins around it? Do the tyres just want to slide around, or when you try and get the power down, does it feel as though the car just wants to go round on the rear end?
Oh, it's horrible, because some laps you put the power down and it's all good, it was all jolly, sorry. And the next lap you go around and the car's it's a bit slidey here. Oh, you're gonna make a mistake and you have to back out, and then next lap it'll be all right again. It's just like I just couldn't seem to find with the tyres like a good point to be consistent, and it's just something different every single lap. And just towards the end, it was like an ice rink. Just try to keep the car in a straight line.
Oh, goodness me, now that does sound as though the car, it's running through different moods from corner to corner and lap to lap, but you managed to keep it pointed in a straight line in the end and brought home the double podium. And of course, a great pair of results today to follow up your debut last time out. And next time we head to the state of Florida for the Sebring International Raceway. How are you feeling for the season finale?
Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there, but I wish I could. I've been doing a few officials there, so I've been enjoying it quite a bit. I think some people are going to find it a bit of a challenge. It's quite bumpy, so it can be a bit unpredictable at times, but I think if you can work out where the bumps are, you should be alright.
Well, it's a shame we won't be seeing you out on the circuit, but still, thank you for the insight there. With all the bumps and whatnot, we could see a couple of drivers become a little bit unsettled by them. But just before we do let you go, Aaron, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah. I want to say thanks to everyone at UKSimRacing, of course. Cameron and Jack for helping me out for the races, and of course Lewis, who sits there on the side telling us what to do and everything, whatnot. And everyone that basically turns up and makes it happen, basically. So yourself, Matty, who's helped me set up and everything here, and just yeah, everyone that turns up week in, week out racing, putting on a show for everyone. And yeah.
Well, I'm sure they'll appreciate your kind words, Aaron. I do too. And with that, we appreciate you being able to join us this evening. But thank you for joining me in the interview room. Congratulations on your fantastic pair of results. And whilst we won't see you in the season finale, we do look forward to seeing you potentially return in future seasons of the Porsche Cup.
Thank you. See you again, I suppose. Whenever. Yeah, thanks for having me. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. No problem. All the best. To hearing there from Aaron Tressler, our silver class driver onto a winning formula in qualifying and the sprint race, particularly leaving it all to that last lap. It all seemed to go wrong, and then he pulled out the magical one lap at the end, and then in the sprint race, bringing on home the win. A feature race perhaps not to remember by comparison with the difficulties, but still at the same time fighting on through to come home in P3. And Wilfred Tresley won't be in attendance next time out, but you can imagine in season 6, of course, more news on that in next week's broadcast. If he does come back for season 6, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the silver class, and definitely flying high as the rounds go on. But as we now come into our final interview of today, we'll be very shortly hearing from none other than Cameron Willacy himself, and we'll be interested to hear his perspective on what was a day of hard battling up and down the field, but particularly in the feature race, and being the man to get under the skin of Philipp Hammer. But as he does join me now, Cameron, congratulations on the 4th place in the sprint race, but perhaps more importantly, the 2nd place in the feature, and being the first driver to really find a way to keep Philipp Hammer at bay for the entirety of the feature race. You must be absolutely knackered after that feature.
I think it was after lap 1 and the spin and, well, half spin from the contact. It was a bit like, oh god, this will not be fun. And we managed to recover a little bit and followed Corey up through the pack a bit. And then my main aim was just we got to try and keep him behind a little bit. So Jack already tried just to keep him back a bit, and then it was my turn, so I thought I'd just keep holding him because the win was out of my hands. And we managed to just keep our elbows out a little bit, but we held them back for once. But it was great fun.
It definitely looks like you're enjoying yourself out there in all 3 sessions today. And just dialing things back to qualifying, a qualifying session which was dominated by Hammer by 9/10 over Lee Holmes, but you were not too far away from being on the front row, just pipped to the post by Holmes by a single 10th in the end. How was qualifying for yourself? Was there more time out there, or did you feel as though you could get the best you could out of the car?
It was pretty much as I could get. I didn't have great, just outright pace. I just couldn't get the long corners right and struggled a little bit. So I was quite happy to get that close to Lee, but yeah, Philipp was miles in front.
Well, it was a good qualifying lap to put yourself on the 2nd row of the grid, and going into the sprint race, we saw quite an even start between yourself and Newman on that 2nd row of the grid, but in trying to pounce there, it felt as though after the opening laps, the pace just started to fall off the car a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what lap it was, but it was either lap 1 or 2. I got a slowdown on the 2nd last corner, and yeah, I just fell back like 4 positions, and I think I was just a little bit frustrated trying to gain the position back and just overdriving the car slightly. And as soon as you slide once around here, every single corner is going to be a pain after that, and that's pretty much how my sprint race went, really.
We did a slowdown as we didn't quite see the slowdown itself, but we saw you having to slow down the start for this straight and compromising your run in the sprint, but still battling to a P4, and in the end going into the feature race, it looked very hectic off of the start line. Did you expect it to go way it did with, well, firstly, Corey Lazarus just charging up the inside of the entire field practically, and then yourself in a little bit of a knockabout on the outside of turn 1?
Yeah, well, I think we were possibly 5 wide at some point, but me, Jack, and Corey got a very good start, and then Trez or Aaron and Emil didn't get a great start. So it was kind of like, should you back out? Should you keep going for it? And Aaron backed out on the inside, but we were still 3 wide, and I think it was just a closing gap with me in the middle. And either way, I was going to get hit by the car on the inside or hit by the car on the outside. So I ended up getting hit by both, really, but luckily stayed in a straight line. And it got damage. I don't know how much it affected me, but I don't think it really made a difference to the race. I don't think I could have beat Corey out of pace.
And then coming on to that race, of course, for the win that eventually was a battle for P2. We saw, of course, Jack Ward lose it out versus Hammer quite early on, albeit Ward able to keep the advantage given the straight line speed that you guys seem to be running on the car. A quick question, how much rear wing are you guys running? Because it seems as though you're running a lot less rear wing compared to everyone else for those straight line speeds.
I don't know the exact number. but it'll be pretty low. The issue with these cars is you put a lot of rear downforce on them, and then you've got no front downforce at all. And that's the only thing you can change. So we do run a lot less rear downforce, and it helps us in the straight in the races. And I find myself I can get through the long corners a little bit better without pushing as much. It's just the way I drive and things. And the rest of the guys are running the same setup, so it's just how it must be different to everyone else, I guess.
Well, indeed, I think right now there might be a few taking notes in the YouTube chat. They've got their proverbial virtual notepads out. But focusing on your battling with Hammer, of course, we saw Hammer come up very rapidly behind you and leaving Lee Holmes behind. But then it seems as though you had the measure of making sure every time he came close into turns 1, 2, 3, and also the run into turn number 10, you just defended hard on the inside on corner apex.
Yeah, that was just my plan. Every time he had an opportunity to just look down the inside, just cover the inside every single time. And he tried, I think it's turn 10, he tried to go around the outside, and he nearly got it. But he just didn't quite get the power down. And yeah, it was really good, really fair with him. It's just a shame he had contact with Jack earlier on. I think Jack maybe would have held him a little bit longer, but apart from that, it was good.
Oh, indeed, and as the battling went on, we saw that Lee Holmes gradually started to get closer. I have to ask, were you hoping that Holmes would arrive a little bit sooner rather than later? Because it did seem as though you were having to do so much work for the best part of about 15 minutes.
Well, I think, to be honest, I would rather have Lee behind me. Obviously, Philip was quick, but Lee was... I don't know if he was defending as much as me. Well, he probably wasn't defending as much, but he was certainly blocking Phil a bit. So that was helping. And when I seen the white flag and seen it was just Lee behind me, I thought this is good because they'll fight each other and I can get a little bit of a gap so that they don't get me on the run to the line. And I think Philip spun or went off on one of the hairpins trying to get to Lee. But yeah, it was just trying to hold Phil behind me because I've not had a chance this season. Road America, when he got behind me, I ran wide in a stupid mistake, and I was quite frustrated with that. And Belle Eiley didn't manage to catch me, so yeah, I just thought, I'll go for it. Maybe the end of the season championship nearly over, but we'll just try it. Why don't we?
Oh, most definitely, and it was an absolute thrilling spectacle from our perspective here, and fighting for that P2 in the Gold Championship. You can take every point you can from round after round. And of course, going on to the final lap, we saw Lee Holmes take a little bit of a sneak peek around the outside again to turn 1, but I suspect by that point you were quite well versed in defending into the opening corner.
Yeah, it's just hold the inside, and they could sometimes get around the outside and be on the inside for the next corner, but as soon as you get to that long right-hander, if you're on the inside, you had the priority to the bend, and if you just kept it tight and they couldn't get it down your inside into the next corner, it was pretty much done for them until the next straight at going into turn 10. So yeah, it was just hold it into turn 1, and I think I could defend the whole lap nearly. So.
Well, masterclass defending from yourself, and now with 2 rounds left to go, we make our way back to the United States for the Florida State Circuit of Sebring. You're running P2 in the Gold Championship. You're looking to hold on to it come the end. How are you feeling for the season finale?
Yeah, it's been great fun, really. First time in the gold class for me from silver last season, and to be fighting for wins has been exceptional. And to see the team doing well has been great feeling for all of us. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Sebring finish the season and see what next season brings us.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you get on in the season finale. But before we let you go, Cameron, as always, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Just everyone at the team again, Jack, Lewis, Aaron, he's maybe racing as a privateer, but he's secretly under our team. And Lewis was spotting as well, and Ben watching the stream. It's been great fun. Thank you to you, Paul, for doing an incredible stream all season. To Matty for running it all, and yeah, it's been great.
Well, that's very kind of you, Cameron. I'm sure Matty will appreciate your kind words. I do too. But thank you to yourself for joining me in the interview room. Congratulations on your brilliant pair of results today, and we look forward to seeing you in the season finale in a week's time.
Cheers, Paul.
All the best. Here and there from Cameron Willacy, our gold class driver, who really did put on a gold class performance today in terms of it didn't quite go the way he wanted it to in the sprint. After a good qualifying session, it really was a showdown for P2 between himself and Lee Holmes, but missing out on that and a difficult start with that slowdown early on, curbing his momentum. But he kept his head down, pushed on, got the P4, and then in the feature it was all about batting for that P2. And despite the damage picked up early on with the incident into turn 1 in the opening lap, he didn't let it stop him and keeping Philipp Hammer at bay as we'd see him heading towards the end of the race. In the background replay right now, where it all came down to a couple of critical defences into turns 1, 2, 3 and 10. But Cameron Willacy really did show today that there's one driver out there who is able to keep Hammer at bay. And even when Lee Holmes tried to take a little bit of a peek as well, Cameron Willacy made his car more than wide enough to hold on to the position. And well, he'll definitely be on course now, thinking about that P2 finish of the Gold Championship come the season finale. That concludes our post-round interviews for today, ladies and gentlemen. You've just heard from Cameron Willacy in the number 43 car for Willacy Racing in the gold class. And prior to that, you heard as our second interview, the number 11 driver, Aaron Tressler, the silver class driver, privateer, but working with Willacy Racing. And our first interview of today, of course, all the way from Australia, Blackout Motorsport New Zealand's Corey Lazarus, the gold class driver in the 44 car, bringing home his maiden win in the gold class and overall. But with our 3 interviews concluded, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the UK Sim Racing community, well, why not go firstly to our official UK Sim Racing website. The address available there is https, well, sorry, we're not going to say all that. It is uksimracing.co.uk, and well, we also do have our Twitter there, and that's the UK Sim Racing Twitter that may be found at twitter.com/UK Sim Racing _. Now, why would you potentially want to visit our website in particular? Well, the things as you can see underneath, a big thank you to our affiliates. Our affiliates do provide us with a number of affiliate links, indeed discount codes on our official Discord, and well, you're able, if you make purchases through our affiliates, to be able to give back to UK Sim Racing. If you've been a long time fan, you've been enjoying the shows, enjoying the racing and the leagues, and if you do go to our website, you won't see any affiliate pages at the moment, and our website does appear on screen here, but you will see there is a Discord button up in the top right corner. And given our affiliates provide discount codes which are available in the UK Sim Racing Discord, and you do need to be a member of the Discord to go racing with us in any of our official leagues, where if you do go to Discord and you do decide to use any of those discount codes, well, you'll be able to make purchases which results in discounts for you as the consumer, and we at UK Sim Racing, well, we end up getting a kickback from that. And because we are a non-profit organisation, all of the funds we make from affiliate earnings will be invested back into the community to fund future series, including the Porsche Cup, the GT3 League, and plenty more we have planned for 2023 and onwards. So a little purchase could go a long way in supporting UK Sim Racing and, on a personal level, your motorsport, alternatively sim racing ambitions. Because when you think about it in terms of who our affiliates are, well, we do have firstly Swello Omeda Sim Racing Coaching, and well, Swello Omeda, when you hear about sim racing coaches, he is the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist, where his coaching could help you take on sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swello has a race coaching course available to meet your needs. Plus, with Swello being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PSSCC, you know you are receiving coaching for the very best in the industry. You also have Race Anywhere, the curated sim racing equipment provider, whereby they're aiming to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Also at Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide. So no matter what your level or discipline, Demon Tweaks can help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. Also our latest affiliate to join us, SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high quality sim racing related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports with with in-house engineering and production facilities which combine Dutch design and high-end craftsmanship, SimLab is the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. And lastly, we do of course have Amazon, the company striving to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, including but not limited to Amazon Prime, Amazon Web Services, and Amazon Fire tablets. But a big thank you once again to all of our affiliates who are working with us at UKSimRacing. Indeed, now, speaking of working, our drivers will be working hard once they've had all their virtual cars shipped over to Sebring International Raceway, because in the Sunshine State of Florida, next time out, we'll be wrapping up the championship. Rounds 17 and 18 will take place on Thursday, the 2nd of March 2023, and well, given the fact that Ash England was not in attendance today, we still do have a Silver Drivers' Championship campaign to wrap up. We also have a Teams Championship that's open between Willacy Racing and WS Racing Esports, albeit the Gold Championship has been wrapped up today, which is going the way of Philipp Hammer, and it'll be formally confirmed next time out. There's still plenty to play for at Sebring. There's pride on the line in the gold class, and there's champions to be crowned in the silver class of the Teams Championship. How will it all end as we bring the curtain down? Tune in a week's time and find out. But until then, we've been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX11 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.